Chapter 1186. At the Outstanding Talent Summit meeting, Xiaochen successfully obtained an authentic medial-grade profound martial technique and several thousand essence stones that could support him until he reached peak great perfection of the blue-robed emperor. He got to see outstanding talents from different sea regions. While they might not be a match for Xiaochen, they gave Xiaochen a different combat experience. Xiaochen now knew that there was always someone better. On the path of the martial Tao, there would always be geniuses who could come up with wondrous ideas that he could not even imagine. In 10 days, Xiaochen had a rough understanding of the medial-grade profound martial technique that he obtained. He discovered that this medial-grade profound martial technique was extremely hard to comprehend. This medial-grade profound martial technique was called Thousand-Year Hegemony Establishment. It was boundlessly tyrannical and involved the will of kingship as well as some of the mysteries of the state of time. Even the current primes could not comprehend the state of time. Naturally, Xiaochen did not, either. As Xiaochen read on, it was as he expected. The one who researched this martial technique was a powerhouse from the ancient era, Emperor Wu. That was the Kunlun realm's most glorious era of the martial Tao, when martial emperors were as common as clouds and sages filled the streets. Xiaochen estimated that he would need at least 1 month to understand the meaning of the martial technique. After that, he would need another 5 days to understand some of the basics. After that, he would practice for half a month to see if he could use it as he pleased. If Batu and Bayu, who also obtained medial-grade profound martial techniques, or Zhaofeng, knew about such a fast comprehension speed, they would definitely cry. That Zhaofeng worked hard for 2 months and barely managed to execute a medial-grade profound martial technique. He could not control it freely at all. Its true might was not even as strong as the inferior-grade profound martial techniques that Xiaochen was familiar with. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, a strong wind blew in front. The wind was as sharp as a saber, seeming like it could tear through the air. Xiaochen put down the secret manual and looked over. He saw a flock of large birds with metallic feathers 20 kilometers away, flying in his direction in a flock. Xiaochen sensed that these birds were blue-robed emperor, level ferocious beasts. The strong wind from their wings increased instead of weakening after 10 kilometers. Troublesome. There were too many gales. If an ordinary blue-robed emperor was surrounded by these wind blades, they would inevitably suffer some flesh wounds. Frowning slightly, Xiaochen's eyes shone with a golden light and a white light. The solar true flame and the lunar true flame flew out at the same time and chased each other. Soon, an enormous Taiji yin-yang flame diagram appeared before the war chariot. All the wind blades that flew over were completely incinerated when they collided with the flame diagram. After Xiaochen withdrew the yin-yang flame diagram, he waved his hand, and little yellow feather flew out excitedly from the immortal spirit ring. Xiaochen flew towards the flock of ferocious birds. When these large birds got close, they were no longer a threat to Xiaochen. They were suitable for Little Yellow Feather to practice with. Ignoring Little Yellow Feather's situation, Xiaochen took out the sea chart and looked at it. He felt somewhat melancholic as he discovered that the sea chart stopped at the Black Sea. The human demon sea was already at the edge of the oceanic world. Most of the sea region between the Black Sea and the human demon sea was the Desolate Sea. Furthermore, it was very large. There were very few accurate sea charts in the heavenly starry ocean that could record such a large area. Xiaochen could only find a general direction and explore it slowly. Driving the Flood Dragon war chariot, Xiaochen continued his journey. For the remaining 10 days, Xiaochen only saw the vast sea and speckled desolate islands. Occasionally he ran into all sorts of ferocious beasts. However, he did not see anyone. Xiaochen wondered if this Flood Dragon war chariot was too fast, causing him to go in the wrong direction. If the war chariot was too fast and went in the wrong direction, by the time he reacted he might end up in a completely different direction. On this particular day, Xiaochen finished cultivating and used the essence stone in his hand. The instant he opened his eyes, he happened to see a group of cultivators in the air. He immediately revealed an expression of joy. After more than 20 days without seeing anyone, one could easily imagine Xiaochen's current mood. Under Xiaochen's command, the 4 blue-robed emperor, level flood dragons sped towards that group of people. This was a group of blue-robed emperor level experts. The leader was a gray-robed, middle-aged man with a mature air. He was a consummation blue-robed emperor, level cultivator. When he saw Xiao Chen driving the Flood Dragon war chariot over, he waved his hand and immediately got everyone to raise their guard. Friends, there is no need to worry. We do not have any malicious intentions. We are just here to ask for directions. Xiao Chen stopped the Flood Dragon war chariot 5 kilometers away and made his intentions clear, lest there be any unexpected problems. What a strong war chariot! The 4 Flood Dragons are all blue-robed emperor level. This is probably the Peking grade war chariot. It is really awe-inspiring. Big brother, that brat seems to be only a great perfection blue-robed emperor, level cultivator. Furthermore, he is alone. As Xiao Chen sized up this group of people, they all sized up Xiao Chen as well. When they saw the Flood Dragon war chariot, their eyes lit up. A strange light flashed in the eyes of the gray-robed, middle-aged man as well. However, when he saw Xiao Chen, he quickly calmed down and stopped his restless subordinates. This is the Dragon Grave Sea. Where did you come from? The middle-aged man asked as he performed a cupped fist salute. This gesture also expressed his goodwill. It was an unspoken rule among cultivators. Xiao Chen put away the Flood Dragon war chariot and arrived before this group of people with a flash. He performed a cupped fist salute and said, I come from the Dark Sea. What sea region is this Dragon Grave Sea? I have never heard of it before. Can you tell me how far it is from the Human Demon Sea? The gray-robed man smiled and said, The Dragon Grave Sea is just a small sea region. It is normal not to have heard of it. However, I believe you have heard of the Distant Sea Dragon Grave, one of the 8 great forbidden lands. Distant Sea Dragon Grave Sea. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up as he guessed something. He said, Could it be that one of the 8 great forbidden lands, the Distant Sea Dragon Grave, is in this Dragon Grave Sea? The gray-robed man nodded and said, This is how the Dragon Grave Sea got its name. Our group is planning to go to a dragon grave to adventure. If you want to go to the Human Demon Sea, the direction is correct. However, it is still very far away. Xiao Chen thanked the gray-robed man and asked, Can you sell me a sea chart? I can pay a high price for it. Unexpectedly, the black-robed man shook his head and rejected Xiao Chen. Just as Xiao Chen felt suspicious, the black-robed man pointed in a direction and said, If you follow this direction for another 500 kilometers, you will see an archipelago. It is very cheap to buy a sea chart there. There is no need to spend a lot of money to buy it from me. When Xiao Chen heard this, he could not help having a good impression of this middle-aged man. He said, I am Xiao Chen. Can I know your name? If we meet again in the future, I will definitely thank you heavily. The gray-robed man smiled faintly and said, I am Lu Hao. There is no need to thank me heavily. It is just a small favor. After they parted, one of the gray-robed man's companions immediately said excitedly, Big brother Lu, how could you just watch as a fat lamb slipped away? Indeed. Just that Flood Dragon war chariot is worth tens of millions of black astral coins. It is much better than us going to the dragon grave to try our luck. It is just a great perfection blue-robed emperor. There are so many of us, and Big Brother is a consummation blue-robed emperor. What is there to fear? The gray-robed man's expression turned serious as he said coldly, You are short-sighted. Not to mention this person, just his eyes alone made me not dare to underestimate him. Just based on the fact that he heard your discussion and still dared to come alone, it means that he is not someone we can deal with. Seeing that there were still a few people in the group who were not convinced, the gray-robed man could not be bothered with them. This group had been put together at the last minute and did not have a deep relationship with them. Some people's hearts had already changed. There was no point in trying to force them to stay together. If any of you want to leave the group, you better scram now. Otherwise, you might end up harming everyone after you go to the dragon grave, the gray-robed man said coldly. The moment the gray-robed man said that, a few people immediately felt tempted. Without saying anything else, they flew in the direction that Xiao Chen had taken. When these people were far away, Lu Hao said indifferently, There is no need to care about them. They are already dead people. Lu Hao's confident tone sent a chill down the backs of some of the people who did not go. After putting away the flood dragon war chariot, Xiaochun, who was dressed lightly, followed the direction that the gray-robed man Lu Hao pointed. After walking for 1 hour, he finally saw the silhouette of an island. That was right. It was indeed a group of islands densely packed together, forming a large group of islands. If one looked down from the sky, one would discover that the silhouette of this group of islands resembled a coiling dragon. Normally, one would not see any islands in the desolate sea. Now that he saw so many islands, Xiaochun revealed a gratified smile. He no longer had to worry about going the wrong way and getting lost. Suddenly Xiaochun frowned. He lowered his head to look at the sea under his feet, and a strange expression appeared on his face. However, when he sent his spiritual sense to the bottom of the sea, he revealed an expression of relief. Xiaochun had only exchanged a few words with that gray-robed man. However, based on his intuition, Xiaochun concluded that this gray-robed man was more cautious and experienced. Although this gray-robed man was greedy, he could control himself well. He knew who he could offend and who he could not. When Xiaochun noticed that someone was following him at the bottom of the sea, he found it strange that the gray-robed man had returned. When he used his spiritual sense to see that it was the other three, he understood. Xiaochun's lips curled up in a faint smile as he stopped. He could not be bothered to waste time with these people. He circulated all the law energy in his body, and took the initiative to strike the sea, throwing a palm strike. A resplendent bright moon that looked like fire exploded in the deep sea, kicking up towering waves that surged up continuously for 50 kilometers around. When Xiaochun raised his palm strike, he executed his killing move, the 1,000-year flame. The bright moon exploded in the water, carrying Xiaochun's lofty aspirations. It kicked up 1,000 layers of waves and soared through the clouds. Following a few cries, 3 figures leaped out of the water. All of them were covered in wounds, and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Although the vast explosive force of the 1,000-year flame was split among the 3, it was somewhat reduced. However, these 3 were caught off guard. They were still thinking about how to sneak attack Xiaochun when the 1,000-year flame struck them while they were unprepared, severely injuring them in an instant. The unexpected palm strike immediately dispelled these 3's thoughts of robbing Xiaochun. Horror appeared in their eyes as they tacitly split up and fled. Since Xiaochun had already made a move, he had no intention of letting these 3 off. If they wanted to target him, then they had to be prepared to pay the price. A murderous intent flashed in Xiaochun's eyes as he executed Thunder Dragon steps. With every step he took, hundreds of lightning dragons shot out of the seawater. Chapter 1187. One step, one saber strike. After 3 saber strikes, the 3 figures merged. The already severely injured 3 people were chopped in half by the Thunder Dragon chop. This place was already not far from that island. Many cultivators passed by this place. When these people saw Xiaochun's means, they were all skilled and bold. They did not fear him at all as they pointed and discussed the saber techniques that Xiaochun executed in soft voices. What an incredible bladesman! I don't think I've seen him before. He is probably new. He is only a great perfection blue-robed emperor, but he can erupt with the cultivation of a consummation blue-robed emperor. He is indeed strong. That's nothing. After all, this dragon grave sea does not lack experts. It is not strange. Xiaochun sheathed his saber. This was a small interlude, and the discussions of the bystanders. However, Xiaochun did not care too much about them as he rushed to the island. Xiaochun arrived at a nearby island, and bought a sea chart from a shop. Then, he spent a little more black astral coins to obtain the information on the Dragon Grave Sea. As its name suggested, the Dragon Grave Sea was named after the distant sea dragon grave, one of the 8 great forbidden lands. The distant sea dragon grave was somewhat similar to the savage continent's dragon burial mound. They were both mysterious lands where dragons were buried. However, one was on land, and the other was the sea. Other than the famous forbidden ground, the distant sea dragon tomb, there were other dragon tombs of various sizes and dangers in this region of the sea. The dragon graves contain true dragon remains worth cities as well as all sorts of natural treasures. If one could obtain any one of them, they would make a huge profit. Furthermore, the dragon graves in this sea all contained extremely precious burial items, which was very wondrous. It was like these distant ancient true dragons were a race with their own civilization. The burial items included not only all sorts of secret treasures, divine materials, but even martial techniques. Hence, there were many foreign blue-robed emperor cultivators in this archipelago. All of them came to explore the dragon graves, hoping to obtain fortuitous encounters that belonged to them. A thought occurred to Xiaochen. He was not interested in these dragon graves. Instead, he thought that since there were so many dragon graves, there would definitely be a lot of dragon soul secret treasures, and all sorts of natural treasures. Xiaochen had always needed secret treasures containing dragon souls. Now that the blue dragon body nourishing art had reached the crucial point of the second layer, he urgently needed some secret treasures containing dragon souls to help him break through. There were also many heavenly and earthly treasures. There might even be the flower of life that he needed. The death fruit was among the treasures left behind by the Thunder King. There was no need to worry about it. As for the flower of life, it was something that gave Xiaochen a headache. Normally, the flower of life only appeared in the human demon sea. Furthermore, it was extremely rare, and had not been seen for many years already. There was little hope of finding it here. However, it was good to try his luck. If he could not find it, he would go to the human demon sea to think of another way. "Boss, are there any underground markets here?" Xiaochen asked the shop owner. Normally, such places would have markets, providing a place for those who risked their lives to obtain treasures from the dragon graves to trade. If he wanted to find good things, he would have to go to the underground market. After all, many of the items were obtained by killing others. It was impossible to sell them openly. If he wanted to make a move quickly and safely, he could only do so through the underground market. Although the shop owner was not a cultivator, he had been doing business here for a long time. Naturally, he knew about this. He answered, "Our island is too small. We do not even have a market. Naturally, there is no underground market. The underground market of the Dragon Grave Sea is on Treasure Dragon Island. You can go there and ask around." "Many thanks." Xiaochen smiled faintly and thanked the shop owner. Then he flew to Treasure Dragon Island. In the sea chart, the island where Treasure Dragon City was located was the largest island in this archipelago. It occupied the center of the island, where all the adventuring foreign experts gathered. Xiaochen walked casually on Treasure Dragon Island. When he glanced around, he saw a group of blue-robed emperor cultivators walking together. Furthermore, they were all great perfection blue-robed emperors at the very least. Small perfection blue-robed emperors were nowhere to be seen. They were not even worth mentioning. The order on the island was extremely chaotic. Fighting and killing could be seen everywhere. This did not surprise Xiaochen. The movement of cultivators in the Dragon Grave Sea was very high. Aside from some merchant associations that occupied this place for a long time, there were no sects or clans here, so they could not set any rules. The largest city on Treasure Dragon Island was Treasure Dragon City. In terms of size, it was no smaller than Blackwater City, which Xiaochen had seen before. However, in terms of style, there was no comparison at all. It looked extremely ordinary. There were no guards at the city gates. Actually, there was no need for guards. No one would obediently walk through the city gates. They all flew in without any fear. Xiaochen thought to himself, "This place is extraordinarily chaotic. After going to the underground market, I have to leave quickly." The location of the underground market was not hard to find. The entrance was in a restaurant in the city. Behind the market were the few strongest merchant associations in the Dragon Grave Sea. No one dared to cause trouble there, maintaining a pretty good trading environment. After Xiaochen paid, he was easily let in. Then he followed the long and narrow secret path of the restaurant and arrived at the underground market. The market was made up of several trading streets. Wealthy cultivators could rent a shop and sell their treasures. Most cultivators chose to set up stalls. There were many people on the streets. The cultivators on the main street traded in all sorts of things. The other streets were more detailed, either secret treasures, natural treasures, medicinal pills, or secret manuals. Xiaochen first went to the place where secret treasures were traded. Then he casually strolled around. The streets were very crowded. Many cultivators were like Xiaochen, wandering around the streets. The secret treasures on display at the stalls were all very unique. They looked ancient and gave off a heavy ancient aura. Occasionally, the words carved on the secret treasures were filled with an ancient charm and a foreign aura. After casually chatting with the stall owner, Xiaochen learned that these were dragon race secret treasures from an extremely distant era. Dragon race. I've heard of true dragons before. What's going on with the dragon race? They actually know how to refine their own secret treasures? Xiaochen asked, feeling it was strange. That stall owner had nothing to do, so he chatted with Xiaochen for a while. Then he smiled and said, "Who can say for sure what happened during the ancient era? It is probably millions of years ago. It is not surprising that there was a glorious dragon race. This was the post-ancient era. Before the post-ancient era, there was the glorious ancient era. Before the ancient era, there was the desolate ancient era. Before the ancient era, there was the distant ancient era. The gap in time was too large. What Xiaochen had a better understanding of now was that glorious ancient era, which was at the peak of the martial Tao. Xiaochen knew very little about the desolate ancient era, and even less about the history of the distant ancient era. There were not even many remnants left. Xiaochen thought about it and agreed. After the end of the immortal epoch, there were too many mysteries in this world. It was not strange that a glorious dragon race appeared during the distant ancient era. Friend, are there any secret treasures containing dragon souls here? I would like to purchase some. Do you know where I can find them? Xiaochen asked after putting down the secret treasure in his hand. Secret treasures containing dragon souls? The stall owner smiled and said, "In that case, you have come to the right place. Every secret treasure here has some degree of dragon soul in it. After all, the original owner was a dragon race cultivator. In theory, the spiritual mark left by the original owner is a dragon soul. There is such a thing." This piqued Xiaochen's interest. He casually picked up a secret treasure and sent in his spiritual sense to search for the spiritual mark left by the original owner. After a while, Xiaochen felt the spiritual mark and could not help feeling disappointed. It was indeed a dragon soul. However, it was too weak and would not have any effect on Xiaochen. This is a little too much, right? Xiaochen smiled and put down the secret treasure. The stall owner did not deny it. He smiled and said, "It is indeed too much. You should be cultivating some kind of cultivation technique that requires the assistance of a dragon soul. In that case, it should be enough for you to buy a superior grade king grade secret treasure. The one you took earlier was only an inferior grade king grade secret treasure." When Xiaochen heard this, he tested it out. Indeed, it was as the stall owner said. The spiritual mark left by a superior grade king grade secret treasure was an extremely strong dragon soul. This probably had something to do with the original owner's strength. The stronger one was, the stronger the spiritual mark would be. "Alright, I'll buy the 3 superior grade king grade secret treasures you have." The stall owner's words were true. Xiaochen happily paid the bill, spending 2 million black astral coins to buy all 3 superior grade king grade secret treasures. The stall owner had a wide smile on his face as he watched Xiaochen search for more secret treasures. He muttered, "I wonder where this noble clan's young master came from. He is really straightforward, making a deal with one price." Following that, Xiaochen verified his guess. It was indeed as the stall owner said. As long as it was a superior grade king grade secret treasure of the dragon race, it would all have a strong dragon soul. However, Xiaochen did not make a big purchase. There were many eyes in this place, and there were many experts. There was no guarantee that someone would target him. Choosing a cautious method, Xiaochen spent 2 days in a low-profile manner sweeping up all the superior grade king grade secret treasures on this street. Xiaochen's luck was pretty good. He even found a peak-quality king grade secret treasure with a terrifyingly strong dragon soul in it. Although it did not have any intelligence, its ferocious nature still remained, injuring Xiaochen's spiritual sense. After sweeping through all the secret treasures, Xiaochen spent more than half of the 70 million black astral coins he had. After that, he rushed to the street where natural treasures were sold, trying to find news about the flower of life. In the end, he was unlucky. There was no news at all. Everyone said that it was a species on the verge of extinction. The flower of life had never appeared in the dragon grave sea before. This was an expected result, so Xiaochen was not overly disappointed. After he left, he rented a room in a restaurant and started to cultivate the blue dragon body nourishing art. Xiaochen had already reached the peak of the blue dragon body nourishing art's second layer long ago. He only lacked divine materials, and he would be able to break through. Now, Xiaochen had bought many secret treasures containing dragon souls, and easily made breakthroughs, cultivating the blue dragon body nourishing art to the third layer. Xiaochen still had a considerable number of secret treasures containing dragon souls. He had not exhausted all of them, so he decided to continue cultivating in one go, stabilizing his cultivation of the blue dragon body nourishing art's third layer. When Xiaochen thought about the cultivation of the azure dragon body nourishing art, it was not something that an ordinary person could cultivate. The resources required were vast. Up until now, Xiaochen had spent close to 100 million black astral coins. However, he had only reached small perfection of the third layer. There were still 6 more layers, each more important than the one before. Furthermore, Xiaochen had discovered a shortcut. Secret treasures containing dragon souls could increase his cultivation speed. If he had not discovered this secret, the expenditure would have been even more horrifying. Chapter 1188. However, the benefits were clear. After condensing the blue dragon battle armor, Xiaochen's physical body would surpass that of the fiend race geniuses with the heavenly spiritual body. 10 days later, Xiaochen used up all the secret treasures containing dragon souls, including that peak quality king grade secret treasure. More than 40 million black astral coins were gone, just like that. Xiaochen opened his eyes and spat out a long breath of turbid air. The moment he stood up, the bones in his entire body gave off crackling sounds. Xiaochen opened his acupoints, and dragon-shaped energy leaked out uncontrollably, spreading throughout the entire room and forming hazy dragon clouds. His entire body felt very comfortable. Xiaochen felt that his physical body had improved by another level, and his vital qi had increased to 20 dragon force. With a thought, Xiaochen circulated his energy, and his vital qi surged in his body, giving off dragon roars. After reaching the third layer, Xiaochen condensed the blue dragon battle armor for the first time. This time, the blue dragon battle armor no longer covered his entire body. Instead, it truly permeated his skin and flesh, forming an incomparably close connection. It felt like it was his own skin. There was no discomfort at all. The battle armor wrapped itself even tighter, and its surface glowed like flowing water. There was also a formless tyrannical aura of kingship surrounding Xiaochen as the battle armor appeared, making him look like a human-shaped dragon. If Xiaochen continued cultivating this, when he brought out the blue dragon battle armor, his entire physical body would change, forming a physique that was somewhere between a human and a dragon. Kasie. With a thought, sharp spikes popped out of Xiaochen's arms, ankles, and other joints. Then he stretched his limbs and clenched his fists. He could feel a gushing river-like energy. Fortunately, this was a superior room with sufficient space and decent soundproofing. This allowed Xiaochen to familiarize himself with this new blue dragon battle body, without worrying too much. Right now, a normal great perfection blue-robed emperor is no longer a threat to me. I just don't know how big the gap is between me and half-step Emperor Wu. Xiaochen withdrew the dragon power from the blue dragon armor, and returned to his white robe. His eyes revealed a fiery light as he murmured. The blue dragon body nourishing secret art had stabilized at the third tier, and his strength had increased. This made Xiaochen extremely eager to fight, and he really wanted to have a great battle with the half-step Emperor Wu. However, he was not an arrogant person who would make trouble out of nothing. He would never take the initiative to provoke a half-step Emperor Wu, or think that he was invincible in the blue-robed emperor realm, and challenge a few great perfection blue-robed emperors at the same time. Xiaochen's mental state allowed him to control the inflated confidence that came with his increase in strength. All the major characters who had seen him before, like the Haotian Emperor and the Flame Rock Sovereign, were extremely shocked by Xiaochen's mental state. It was truly remarkable for Xiaochen to have such a mental state at such a young age. As the saying went, the greater one's ability, the greater one's desire. Many outstanding talents in history could not overcome this obstacle of desire, ruining their bright futures in their own hands. After sorting out his emotions, Xiaochen intended to have a drink before leaving this chaotic place. After pushing open the door, Xiaochen walked down the corridor. Just as he reached the corner of the second floor, he saw another argument about to turn into a fight. The status of this restaurant in Treasure Dragon City was somewhat like that of the Conflagration restaurant in Dark City. Because there were secret passages leading to the underground market, it had always been very popular. Going in and out, there were many people at every moment, and this was how the conflict arose. Someone in the hall wanted to go out. In the end, an extremely fast youth knocked into that person. The youth who knocked into that person had a fiery temper and started cursing on the spot. Where did this dog come from? How blind! How dare he block my Duguao's path? How reckless! How could the middle-aged man who was knocked into endure this? He had not even lost his temper, yet the person who knocked into him became angry. How preposterous! An intense fight immediately unfolded. Although fighting was prohibited in the underground market, it was not prohibited in the restaurant. The people in the restaurant were used to fighting and whatnot. Seeing that there was something interesting to watch, a group of people came over from the railings of the various floors with wine cups in hand to watch the excitement. Everyone remained as calm as still water, chatting and drinking, commenting on the situation. This was one of the wonders of the Dragon Grave Sea. It's this Duguao again. He is still as arrogant as before. That middle-aged man is probably in trouble. He is probably new and has not heard of Duguao's name before. When Xiaochen heard the discussions, he could not help but feel interested in this Duguao. Based on the discussions of the others, this Duguao was about 50 years old. Duguao looked extremely young. Clearly, he had advanced to martial sage long ago. However, his appearance would not change beyond 100 years old. Of course, in the Kunlun realm, 50 years old was indeed a very young age. One could not use the standards of Xiaochen's previous life to look at it. Xiaochen asked the person beside him, "What is this Duguao's background?" That person wore luxurious clothes and took a sip of wine. He seemed to be in a pretty good mood. That person introduced excitedly, "This fellow's background is incredible. He is one of the top 10 young experts of the human demon sea. He is only 50 years old, but he already reached consummation blue-robed emperor. There will not be any problems with him advancing to martial emperor in the future. How enviable. Thinking about it, I spent 100 years as a great perfection blue-robed emperor, before I advanced to consummation blue-robed emperor. That is already an incredible talent. Compared to this fellow, it is nothing." Xiaochen felt enlightened. However, he did not think that it was incredible. Becoming a consummation blue-robed emperor at 50 years old was indeed an incredible talent. However, compared to his generation, he was still far from it. Not to mention Xiaochen, just comparing Wuxia's group of people, who knew what kind of improvements they had in the astral battlefield. As long as they could persevere and survive, they would probably have reached great perfection blue-robed emperor by now. Furthermore, most of them were only about 30 years old. Given the talent of this group of people, they would not have any problems breaking through to consummation blue-robed emperor in less than 5 years. If they had some other fortuitous encounter, they might even be able to reach consummation blue-robed emperor in 2 or 3 years. As for Xiaochen himself, even without the blood sword sovereign's life and death art, he would be able to reach consummation blue-robed emperor in another 3 years. In this great age, when those outstanding talents with luck improved, it would not be an exaggeration to say that they advanced by leaps and bounds. Why do you look like you are not convinced? The cultivator in luxurious clothes holding up a wine cup raised his eyebrows. Xiaochen smiled and did not say anything, continuing to watch the intense battle between the two in front of the door. After watching for a while, Xiaochen guessed the result. Although that middle-aged man was also a consummation blue-robed emperor, and was pretty strong, compared to Duguao, his movement technique, strength, martial technique, and physical body was far weaker. However, compared to Duguao, Xiaochen's movement technique, strength, martial technique, and physical body were far inferior. Defeat was just a matter of time. Now that Xiaochen knew the result, He lost some interest and stopped paying attention to the battle in front of the door. Taking advantage of this opening, Xiaochen picked a good seat on the second floor and ordered a table full of food and wine, minding his own business as he ate. However, the result somewhat exceeded Xiaochen's expectations. Just as the middle-aged cultivator was about to lose, a half-step Emperor Wu appeared. A strange black snake tattoo hung down on this dazzling bald man's head, covering half of his face. That snake head happened to overlap with his left eye, looking extremely sinister. The moment the bald half-step Emperor Wu revealed his cultivation, he immediately shocked the crowd and saved that middle-aged cultivator. Big brother. When the middle-aged man saw the bald man arrive, he revealed an expression of joy. So it is a friend of the bald-headed snake Wu Ku. No wonder he dares to oppose Duguao. Clearly, this bald man was quite famous. Many people in the restaurant knew him. The moment he appeared, many people recognized him. Young man, there is no need to be too arrogant. I will not bother with you this time. Wu Ku looked coldly at Duguao. Then he quickly led the middle-aged cultivator away from this place. Although Duguao did not fear this bald man, he knew that he was not a match for him. If he fought head-on, he would be the one at a disadvantage. Seeing the other party leave, Duguao cursed unhappily. Then he headed for the second floor. Duguao looked around and immediately spotted a good spot for Xiaochen. Then he walked over. Scram. I've taken a fancy to this spot. This was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. To the others, Duguao's actions were very normal. I'm stronger than you, so I have the authority to tell you to scram. If you are as strong as a half-step Emperor Wu, you can tell Duguao to scram as well. When most people encountered such a situation, they would pinch their noses and leave. In the Dragon Grave Sea, this was not a big deal. Interesting. This brat was unconvinced earlier. Now that he ran into Duguao, he has no choice but to accept it. The well-dressed man who introduced Duguao to Xiaochen earlier said with a smile as he held up his wine cup. Xiaochen ignored Duguao's words. He calmly drank his wine and ate as if he did not hear what Duguao said. You are seeking death. Duguao was already in a bad mood in the first place. Earlier, he suffered at the hands of the half-step Emperor Wu. Now an insignificant great perfection blue-robed emperor dared to clash with him. His anger immediately flared up. Duguao raised his hand and punched at Xiaochen. At this moment, a light suddenly flashed in Xiaochen's calm eyes. Xiaochen gently flicked his right hand, and one of the two chopsticks in his hand flew at Duguao's eyes like an arrow. The other quickly spun and clashed with Duguao's fist. Whoosh! The strong wind was like a saber. The spinning chopsticks kicked up a sharp gale, blowing up all the hair in front of Duguao's forehead. This allowed Duguao to see even more clearly. The chopstick stabbing at his eyes was like an unparalleled treasure saber, boundlessly sharp and containing a horrifying saber intent. Duguao's face sank. He had not expected to run into an expert. His thoughts raced. He could not think of any other way to deal with this, aside from retreating. Bang! When the spinning chopsticks struck Duguao's fist, he immediately felt pain. Without hesitation, he quickly pulled back his fist to protect his eyes and quickly retreated. Xiaochen smiled faintly. His right hand moved as fast as lightning, moving at a dazzling speed to grab the chopsticks flying at Duguao's eyes. When Xiaochen retreated, the second spinning chopstick happened to turn around. The two chopsticks returned to Xiaochen's hands. Then he picked up some food and drank some wine. However, he still did not look at Duguao. After testing the waters, Xiaochen's simple and miraculous two chopsticks easily forced back the enraged Duguao, shocking everyone present. Chapter 1189. If not for the people present having extremely sharp eyes, they would not have been able to tell that Xiaochen had stopped picking up food. The most shocked person was none other than the finely dressed man. He choked on his wine and coughed endlessly. Dang! Xiaochen put down the wine cup in his hand heavily. Then he raised his head and looked at Duguao with a sharp gaze. He said, I was just looking for someone to practice with. You are a pretty good opponent. However, this place is too small. I believe you feel restricted as well. How about we go somewhere else? Duguao was indeed a pretty good opponent. Xiaochen was not lying when he said that. Duguao was strong even among the consummation blue-robed emperors. Duguao's earlier punch had been executed in a moment of desperation. There were countless openings. Even though Xiaochen easily forced him back with 2 chopsticks, he could not deny Duguao's strength. Xiaochen could clearly recognize this point. If Xiaochen wanted to defeat Duguao, he would have to put in some effort. After all, Duguao was 20-odd years older than Xiaochen and possessed great talent. Furthermore, he was a demon mixed blood. However, that was all to it. Duguao was just slightly harder to deal with, not enough to scare Xiaochen. Duguao was young and frivolous, brimming with vigor. How could he endure such provocation? He grinned and said, "It is just some flashy moves, and you dare to spout nonsense in front of me. You are truly bold. I will do as you wish. You can choose any location in this treasure dragon city. The 2 of you are outstanding young talents. There is no need to make such a big fuss over such a small matter." Just as the 2 prepared to make a move, a voice rang out in their minds at the same time. This was a voice projection. Furthermore, it was sent to 2 people at the same time. The technique was very exquisite. Xiaochen's and Duguao's expressions changed at the same time. They both sent out their senses, trying to find the person who sent the voice projection. In the end, the 2 were somewhat shocked to discover that they could not find the person who sent the voice projection at all. He had seen the 2's every move, and was clearly not far away. However, with the 2's cultivations, they did not discover the other party immediately. Xiaochen swept out with his spiritual sense, and could only determine a rough direction. The person who sent the voice transmission should be in a private room on the 5th floor. However, they did not know which booth it was. The cultivation of the person who sent the voice projection should be much higher than theirs. Half-step Emperor Wu. In their minds, these 4 words appeared at the same time. There was actually a half-step Emperor Wu in this restaurant. Immediately, they did not dare to act rashly. They did not know what the person who sent the voice transmission was planning. There's no need to keep looking. If the 2 of you are willing to stop here, you can stay at this restaurant tonight at noon. I will give you a good fortune. The meaning behind his words was clear. He fancied the strength of the 2 of them, and wanted their help. When Duguao heard that, he relaxed. This was not the first time he encountered such a thing. In the Dragon Grave Sea, those who wanted to adventure in the Dragon Grave Sea would usually team up and explore together. Aside from a few bold and talented people, very few people would travel alone. However, this was Duguao's first time encountering a half-step Emperor Wu wanting to team up. This immediately piqued his interest. Consider yourself lucky. There's something going on today, so I'll let you live for a few more days. Duguao smiled proudly and ignored Xiaochen. Then he went to another table and started eating. Xiaochen also guessed the intention of this person. However, he did not know what the other party was up to, so he decided to wait and see first. When the person who sent the voice projection saw that the 2 did not make another move, he stopped speaking. Clearly, he already had the 2 in his grasp. "Ao Jiao, do you think I should go on this trip?" Xiaochen was originally planning to leave. When he suddenly received such an invitation, he could not help feeling interested. Why not? This person is so secretive. Furthermore, with the strength of a half-step Emperor Wu, he still wants to find helpers. Clearly, the dragon grave that he wants to explore is extraordinary. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, rationally continued her analysis for Xiaochen. The most important thing is that with your current strength, you should be able to escape unscathed from a half-step Emperor Wu. You can consider yourself qualified to work with this person. You do not have to fear him playing any tricks. In that case, I'll listen to you. I'll go and see what's going on tonight. A tense battle suddenly came to a halt. This confused several of the cultivators on the 2nd floor. However, this was the Dragon Grave Sea. There would never be a lack of topics to talk about. Soon, the restaurant regained its bustle. Xiaochen returned to his room and took out an essence stone to cultivate. Then, he quietly waited for the other party to summon him. The cultivation of the essence stone allowed Xiaochen's cultivation speed to improve at a gratifying rate. It had only been a short month since Xiaochen left the Black Sea. However, he already reached the peak of great perfection blue-robed emperor. Right now, Xiaochen was using the essence stone to temper his cultivation, laying down a good foundation. After cultivating to the peak of great perfection blue-robed emperor, Xiaochen's heavenly laws had already doubled, reaching more than 20,000. Furthermore, as Xiaochen continuously tempered his heavenly laws, they became extremely dense, not loose at all. There would not be a situation where the heavenly laws only had quantity, but no quality. Now, Xiaochen only needed to continue tempering his heavenly laws and obtain the flower of life and death fruit. Then, he could use the life and death art to condense a heart of an emperor and break through to consummation blue-robed emperor. The night was as cool as water, and the moonlight was clear. Xiaochen, who was cultivating, heard soft footsteps. He opened his eyes and stopped cultivating, knowing that the news he was waiting for had arrived. Knock. Knock. Someone knocked on the door. A manservant outside said, "Dear guest, there is an honored guest in a private room on the 5th floor who has an invitation for you." Xiaochen pushed the door open and accepted the invitation. After asking which private room it was, he sent the manservant away. There was no content in the invitation. It was just an invitation that did not reveal anything, making it seem extremely mysterious. "I hope that you will not disappoint me." After putting away the invitation, Xiaochen carried some anticipation and caution as he went to the 5th floor and knocked on the door to the private room. After presenting the invitation, someone invited him in. It turned out that there was a secret room inside. There was a secret pavilion in the private room. There were many people in the secret pavilion, including Duguao, who had already arrived. There were a total of 9 people. Including Xiaochen, there were 10. With a cursory glance, Xiaochen had a rough idea of the situation. Aside from the black-clad old man sitting in the middle, who was the half-step Emperor Wu, the other 8 people were all consummation blue-robed emperor cultivators. The other 8 were all consummation quasi-emperors. Furthermore, they were more or less on the same level as Duguao. Regardless of whether they were stronger or weaker, they all hid very deeply. A middle-aged couple sat on the right. They carried swords on their backs. Among the group of ruthless people, they were the ones with the least evil aura. Beside the half-step Emperor Wu was an extremely aged old man. This person was probably the oldest in the entire secret pavilion. Xiaochen estimated that he was at least 800 years old. This old man wore a straw raincoat and looked very aged. He looked like he did not care about the affairs of the world. When he saw Xiaochen arrive, he did not even bat an eyelid. There was also a great fatso with a lustful expression. He did not hide his gaze as he stared at the pretty, middle-aged woman with the sword on her back, making that middle-aged swordsman very unhappy. The remaining 3 were 2 women and 1 man. They were all from the fiend race. Their baleful auras were very dense. Who knew how much blood they had on them? One of the women was from the poison spider race. She used black spider silk to make an indistinct spider silk robe. She had a voluptuous figure and a sinister face, giving off an enchanting air. The poison spider race was considered a rather rare fiend race in the oceanic world. Xiaochen's gaze lingered on them for a while longer. One of the women was from the silver shark race. She wore a black veil on her head and showed a cold expression. Xiaochen could not make out what she was thinking. The other was a fiend race man from the huge elephant race. He had dark skin. When he saw Xiaochen arrive, he appeared extremely hostile. This was an extremely elite and luxurious team. Not only did they have the half-step Emperor Wu leading them, but the consummation blue-robed emperor that came was also an excellent one. With such a strong team, what kind of dragon grave could they not enter? Yet the leader of this team was still worried, inviting Xiaochen and Duguao over. "Boss Yang, even if you cannot find anyone, you don't have to make up the numbers. You even managed to recruit the great perfection blue-robed emperor." The huge elephant race man said indifferently when he saw Xiaochen's hostile expression. "Not just anyone can go. Don't throw your life away." After saying that, the huge elephant race man took a step forward and placed his hand on Xiaochen's shoulder. Then he exerted force, wanting to push Xiaochen out. The huge elephant race was famous for their boundless strength. They were born with great physical strength. Just a gentle push from them could exert millions of kilograms of force. Everyone knew that the speed at which vital qi circulated was much faster than law energy or veritable essence energy. With a thought, one could send out their vital qi. When several people saw the dark-skinned man suddenly make a move, they expected what would happen next. Xiaochen would definitely get pushed out and crash into the walls of the secret pavilion. However, to their surprise, when the dark-skinned man made his move, Xiaochen, who was wearing the fleeting shadow gloves, arrived first and placed his hand on the dark-skinned man's shoulder. After that, there was a loud bang, and the dark-skinned man's body shot out like a cannonball. Then he fell to the ground, caught off guard. This scene was rather comical. When everyone saw this scene, their eyes lit up. When they looked at Xiaochen again, they all revealed cautious expressions. This was especially so for Duguao, who was clearly surprised. He had not expected Xiaochen to have such great physical strength aside from his flashy actions. While Xiaochen's speed was a factor in pushing the huge elephant race cultivator away, his physical strength could not be underestimated. Enough. There is no need for you to test the person I chose. The half-step Emperor Wu raised his head and rapped the table, shouting to stop the dark-skinned man, who wanted to get up and continue fighting. Everyone has no objections to Duguao's strength. I believe everyone has no objections to this little brother's strength, right? Yang Kai said indifferently. Huh. To be able to make a giant elephant race cultivator suffer such a great disadvantage in terms of vital qi, how could we have any objections? The fatty said with a smile, making the dark-skinned giant elephant race man extremely unhappy. However, due to Yang Kai's face, the dark-skinned man could not lose his temper, so he could only endure sullenly. All the cultivators expressed that they had no objections. After Yang Kai introduced himself, he looked at Xiaochen and said, "Since little brother is here, you must have guessed some of my thoughts. In that case, I'll make it short. This old man discovered an 8-star dragon grave that no one has visited before in this dragon grave sea. If little brother is interested, you can join us." Chapter 1190. If you are not interested, it does not matter. I will knock you out and make you sleep for a few days, lest news of us leak out. An 8-star dragon soul. Furthermore, it was an 8-star dragon soul that no one had visited before. With a thought, Xiaochen somewhat understood why this Yang Kai was so mysterious and even cautiously invited so many people. Yang Kai wanted to form a large and luxurious team of elites. Right now, nearly all the known dragon graves in the Dragon Grave Sea had been visited by people, raiding them over and over again. Even if they could gain something, it wouldn't be much. Under such circumstances, it was easy to imagine how valuable an undiscovered dragon grave would be. The reason why Yang Kai invited so many people was none other than an 8-star dragon grave. It was already second only to that great forbidden land of the distant sea dragon grave. While it was valuable, the risk was ridiculously high. Even with Yang Kai's half-step Emperor Wu's strength, he would not be able to take it all by himself. As for knocking out Xiaochen and making him sleep for a few days, that was probably just a lie. If Xiaochen did not agree, the people here would definitely gang up on him and silence him. This matter concerned their own interests. How could they show any mercy? Xiaochen thought for a while, and finally chose to agree. He also wanted to see what kind of treasure land an 8-star dragon grave was. Good. Little friend Xiaochen is indeed righteous. In that case, I will say this first. I will take 20% of the treasures in the dragon grave. You can split the rest evenly based on your own abilities. Of course, the scattered treasures along the way will belong to whoever finds them first. There is no need to split them evenly. Yang Kai suggested a relatively fair method of splitting the treasures. Then he continued, "Since you are all in the same team, you are all in the same boat. No matter what grudges you have in the past, as long as the team is not disbanded, you are not allowed to kill each other. This is especially so if you kill each other for the treasures. I'll say this first. I will cripple whoever makes a move first. The danger of an 8-star dragon grave is greater than you imagine. Don't harm the entire team over this trivial matter." Given the strength of the half-step Emperor Wu, Yang Kai's words were very threatening. Of course, it was hard to say exactly what would happen. Which one of them wasn't an arrogant and unruly existence, who didn't have the strength to protect themselves, dared to cooperate with half-step Emperor Wu. Everyone expressed that they would not do such a thing. Then he raised his head and said, "Good. If you have nothing to prepare, you can set off now." None of them had anything to prepare, so after a brief discussion, they went their separate ways and gathered at the seabed outside the Treasure Dragon Island. After all, a team of 10 people would be too eye-catching, and it would be easy for news to leak. Xiaochun, be careful. Although there are many burial items in the 8-star dragon grave, it should be equally dangerous. Who knows what strange things you might run into? Just as they were about to set off, Ao Jiao reminded him. Every time Xiaochun took a risk, she would worry about him. Xiaochun nodded and said, "I know. I still have that golden plume feather, that little yellow feather left behind. It is enough to escape. It's best not to use it." Ao Jiao thought to herself, if I open the treasures left behind by the Thunder King, my strength should increase. At that time, I will be able to help Xiaochun a lot. Xiaochun only hoped that everything would be fine with Xiaochun before that happened. Half an hour later, everyone had arrived at the agreed location under the sea. Yang Kai led the way without saying a word. Following Yang Kai's footsteps, the group descended continuously. 10,000 meters, 20,000 meters. After descending for more than 100,000 meters, they reached the bottom of the sea. This place was already in the deep sea. Occasionally, one could see some strange glowing fish, colorful corals, and all sorts of mines amid the darkness. The world at the bottom of the sea was not dull. There were huge trees, winding seamounts, strong ferocious beasts, and many others. Clearly, Yang Kai was very familiar with this area, having explored it several times. With great familiarity, Xiaochun led the group to a continuous, towering underwater mountain range and stopped. Whoosh! Yang Kai propped up a huge energy barrier and isolated the seawater, encasing everyone inside. Then he pointed in a direction and said, "That is the entrance to the Dragon Cave. However, there is a formation sealing it. We need to break it forcefully." The group looked in the direction Yang Kai pointed. 10 kilometers away, 2 ancient, mottled stone doors locked a huge cave. "Let me do it." The dark-skinned man of the huge elephant race stepped forward and walked out of the energy barrier. Then he started running wildly in the seawater. The huge energy caused the seawater to surge. Yang Kai did not stop him. He had checked the stone doors of this cave before. After so many years, the might of the formation had decreased significantly. It would not be difficult to break them. Bang! Xiaochun punched the stone doors, and the entire mountain range started to shake. Countless stone chips fell off the stone doors. However, there were no obvious cracks. Boom! 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 After 10 odd punches, the stone doors shook and looked like they would collapse at any moment. However, they did not collapse. They were very resilient. Yang Kai frowned slightly. The toughness of these stone doors surpassed his expectations. Even after so many years, they could still withstand such torture. Yang Kai raised his head and looked at the middle-aged couple. Then he said, "Help him." The middle-aged couple each formed a sword art, and the swords on their backs came out of their scabbards with a clang. They were like 2 deep-sea dragons, traveling 10 kilometers in one breath and crashing into the stone doors. Bang! The stone doors completely shattered. Then, the 2 swords returned to their scabbards. This extremely beautiful move attracted many gazes. The dark-skinned man was the most depressed. After spending 10 odd punches, the 2 swords shattered it. "Let's go. After we enter, do not split up." After Yang Tian said that, he took the lead. The group of people followed behind. However, Xiaochun, who was at the back, felt that the atmosphere here was somewhat strange. So he used the dragon-seeking art to check the geomancy of this place. In the end, he was somewhat surprised to discover that this place was not the place of the dragon renegade. As the saying went, those who go with it live, those who go against it die. Only the dragon vein where the dragon renegade resided was the best place to bury the dead. As Xiaochun continued to speculate, he was shocked to discover that this was not the dragon vein where the dragon renegade resided. Instead, it was a place where the dragon veins intersected. This thought flashed in Xiaochun's mind. Just as he was about to continue thinking, he discovered that Yang Kai was already looking over. So, Xiaochen stopped speculating and followed. Not wanting to arouse the other party's suspicions, Xiaochen quickly followed behind the group and headed for the entrance of the dragon grave. The instant Xiaochen entered the pitch-black entrance, he strangely discovered that although the stone doors were shattered, the seawater could not flow in. As Xiaochen continued walking, the space inside grew larger. Buildings appeared one after another. The style of the buildings was unique. They were crude and simple, giving off a feeling of strength. Compared to the extravagant style of the modern buildings, these buildings appeared rather plain. However, they did give off a feeling of the ancient era style. Most of the remnant was very dilapidated. The buildings had collapsed, and people were lying all over the place. It was difficult to see the full picture, which was somewhat unfortunate. The others were not interested in the buildings of the dragon race's era. They had already experienced it in other dragon graves long ago. However, the further in the group went, the more they felt that something was wrong. This dragon grave seemed too calm. The surroundings were filled with the sound of a group of people stepping on rubble. The strange atmosphere in this quiet environment made one's hair stand on end. It was cold and sinister at a depth of more than 100 kilometers. Walking in an undiscovered dragon grave was not very comfortable. Xiaochen looked around and felt that this place did not look like a dragon grave. It looked like a corner of an ancient era city. How could a dragon grave be built in a city? As Xiaochen felt suspicious, he used his strong spiritual sense to capture some indistinct black qi in the air. That qi seeped out from the ground. It was extremely small but extremely sinister. Xiaochen was not the only one who sensed it. Dugu Ao, the human-demon mixed blood, was extremely sensitive to this demonic qi. After he sensed it, he frowned slightly and reported his discovery. I don't know what's going on with this place, but there is actually demonic qi seeping out from the ground. After hearing Dugu Ao's explanation, Fatso, who was in the group, added, "This place is indeed strange. It is ridiculously large. However, I do not see any natural treasures. All I see are all sorts of buildings and demonic qi. There's also demonic energy coming out. Is this a dragon tomb?" The others felt the same way. Aside from the straw-caped old man, they all looked at the half-step Emperor Wu, Yang Kai, at the front of the group. Yang Kai said indifferently, "I used a specialized secret treasure to test it. It should not be wrong. There is definitely a peak dragon race expert buried here." Xiaochen had heard of a secret treasure that specialized in testing dragon graves before. This was a secret treasure unique to the dragon grave sea. It could detect the aura of the dragon grave master at the bottom of the sea within 1 kilometer. Then it would display different stars based on the strength of the aura. Such a secret treasure was extremely rare. However, its accuracy was nearly 100%. Since Yang Kai said that, then it should not be wrong. The group did not dwell on this problem for now. They arrived at the remnant and cleared the passageways, walking here and there. When the group arrived at a winding corridor, they looked forward. Statues of dragon race cultivators stood on both sides of the corridor. They wore ancient battle armor and held halberds in their hands, standing upright with their heads held high. Indeed, these are the grave guards of the dragon race. They only appear in dragon graves. There are many of them. This is somewhat problematic. When Dugu Ao saw these dragon race statues, he relaxed his frown. The others were very knowledgeable and recognized the grave guards of the dragon race. After verifying that this was a dragon grave, they all revealed smiles on their faces. However, they did not act rashly. The grave guards of the dragon race were all as strong as the small perfection blue-robed emperor. There were nearly 200 grave guards in one corridor. They did not know if there were any more grave guards around the corner. If they were surrounded by so many mausoleum guards, even if they were lucky enough to escape, they would still be heavily injured. Charge over. The dark-skinned huge elephant race youth appeared fearless. Without waiting for the group to discuss, he charged over. When Yang Kai saw the situation, he wanted to say something. However, after some thought, he could not be bothered to say anything, so he directly charged over. When facing these grave guards, there were no tricks. Although the dark-skinned huge elephant race youth was rash, he did not have any good ideas. Directly charging over was the most direct method. Chapter 1191. So. The group moved very quickly. After taking 10 steps, the mausoleum guards on both sides of the corridor instantly came to life and charged at the group. The first to bear the brunt was the black-faced huge elephant race cultivator. His strength was not as weak as the others imagined. The black-faced young man punched out, and the instant the statue jumped down, the head of the black-faced young man exploded. In this environment, he had a unique advantage by unleashing his explosive and swift moves. This allowed him to charge around unhindered, sweeping through everything before him. Don't be fooled by how ferocious he was right now. If the number of winding corridors increased, and he used up the law of energy later on, he would be the one to die the most tragic death. This place can't stop me. Great Fatso chuckled. Faced with the mausoleum guards that continuously jumped down, his body was like a rubber ball, bouncing around. Although it was comical, it did not take long for him to catch up to the black-faced man at the very front. The middle-aged couple, who had been swinging their beautiful flying swords, paled in comparison to the huge elephant race cultivators in such an environment. Every step they took was arduous. However, the couple cooperated well. Although they moved slowly, they were not in any danger. The various sword images formed a screen of swords, blocking the mausoleum guards outside the screen of swords. The old man took out a fishing rod and sighed. I'm already so old, yet I still want to compete with the young. It's really not easy. Although he said that, the fishing rod in his hand was not the least bit careless. With the old Taoist combat experience, he made full use of the characteristics of the terrain in this corridor, and turned it into his advantage. Every time Xiaochen attacked, he stopped at the right time, using the least amount of strength to kill the tomb guards, not wasting any of his energy. The extremely charming venomous spider race woman felt somewhat restricted in this winding corridor. She could not bring out the advantage of her martial techniques. She didn't have the experience of the old man in the raincoat, and she wasn't like the middle-aged couple who helped each other. As a result, she was surrounded by danger. In this corridor, she was in the most danger. It wasn't that she wasn't strong enough, it was just that she wasn't suited to fight in such a complicated environment. The other fiend race woman was very domineering. She held a sharp silver saber in her hand, and a sharp saber chi shot out in all directions. She definitely would not allow herself to be surrounded. She rushed forward continuously. Dugu Ao smiled coldly as he executed an exquisite fist technique in this place. Combined with his movement technique and speed, he was able to perfectly bring out the state of his fist technique despite being surrounded. The river surged and flowed without end, causing him to be like a flood. He followed the concept of his fist technique and charged through the winding corridor. There were no mausoleum guards that could stop him. After a round of danger, everyone in the team displayed their unique martial techniques. Everyone had their strengths and weaknesses. Xiaochen could tell who was stronger with one look. Xiaochen more or less knew about everyone's strength. Xiaochen had the easiest time walking through this winding corridor. Big Fatso was able to avoid the tomb guards with a flick. By relying on his movement technique, Dugu Ao could execute the perfect state of his fist technique despite being surrounded. This already showed the weakness of these tomb guards. Although there were many of them, they were not fast enough. Xiaochen's great perfection Thunder Dragon steps was no weaker than those twos. In fact, it was even stronger. Naturally, it would be easier for him to move. As Xiaochen walked, every step he took left behind an afterimage. Every time, he brushed past a large number of tomb guards. Electric afterimages flickered. Xiaochen moved through this dangerous killing corridor like he was taking a leisurely stroll, appearing very relaxed. Xiaochen, who was originally the last to leave, quickly caught up to the venom spider race woman, who was surrounded by danger. Without saying anything, Xiaochen immediately made a move to help, killing the tomb guards behind the venom spider race woman with a palm strike. When Xiaochen's palm strike landed, dazzling saber lights came from the fallen tomb guards. Then they became riddled with holes and could no longer climb back up. When the tomb guards behind were all killed, the venom spider race woman immediately felt much more relaxed. She thanked Xiaochen, who was passing by. Xiaochen nodded slightly in acknowledgement. He did not pay much attention to this. Even if he had not made a move, this venom spider race woman would not have died here. However, she would have ended up in an even more miserable state. The other party definitely had trump cards. Executing Thunder Dragon steps, Xiaochen continued forward. As he strolled, electric images flickered, allowing Xiaochen to move unobstructed and at ease. Soon, Xiaochen overtook the middle-aged sword-wielding woman. Although the two were slow, they were very safe. Since they did not need Xiaochen's help, he naturally would not make a move on his own. As Xiaochen watched the afterimages flash by, he brushed past the tomb guards again and again. The middle-aged couple felt startled. Unexpectedly, this great perfection blue-robed emperor, whom everyone initially looked down on, actually had so many tricks up his sleeve. Not only did Xiaochen's vital qi rival that of a huge elephant race cultivator, but his movement technique was also very good. As Xiaochen continued forward, he overtook the straw-caped old man. Now this old man did not even need Xiaochen's help. Given the old man's combat experience, he did not give the tomb guards any chance to surround him. Instead, he used the terrain to his advantage, swinging his fishing rod and squeezing the tomb guards together, restraining each other. I am indeed getting old. The youths these days are all scarier than the last. As the straw-caped old man watched Xiaochen walk past him, he sighed in a manner that seemed both real and fake. Then he swung his fishing hook, and the transparent fishing line tore off the heads of 3 more spiritwood guards. Then, they fell to the ground, unable to get up again. The next person Xiaochen overtook was the silver shark race bladesman. This girl was clearly pretty, but when she moved, she looked ferocious and boundlessly tyrannical. However, when he moved, he looked ferocious and boundlessly tyrannical, causing others to involuntarily retreat when they saw him. The other party's saber technique was too tyrannical. The scattered silver saber chi nearly filled the entire corridor. Xiaochen did not want to attract any trouble. He gently pushed off with his feet, and his figure drifted like a leaf, passing through the berserk and dense saber chi. The silver shark race bladesman stopped what she was doing. When she saw Xiaochen's movement technique, she was slightly stunned. She thought to herself, this fellow is pretty strong. If I have a choice, I should do my best not to get into a conflict with this white-clad youth. As Xiaochen overtook one person after another, the last person to leave, Xiaochen arrived first despite starting later. He arrived at the vanguard, keeping pace with Dugu Ao, the great fatso, and the black-skinned youth. This was why Xiaochen purposely hid his strength. If he wanted to, he might be on par with Yang Kai. However, there was no need to expose his strength too early. It was enough to follow behind the other party and ensure that he did not suffer any losses. The other 3, who were keeping pace with each other, all felt unconvinced and wanted to surpass each other. This was especially so for the great elephant race's black-skinned youth and Dugu Ao. Unfortunately, they all had their own strengths. It was not easy for anyone to surpass the other. The corridor wound around 9 times before reaching the end. Fatso, who was bouncing around like a rubber ball, immediately panted heavily after he stopped, feeling incredibly tired. The black-skinned youth, who had exhausted a lot of energy along the way, was also incredibly fatigued. He quickly sat down and circulated his energy to recover. Dugu Ao closed his eyes and rested, showing no intention of moving. Although his fist technique flowed endlessly, it was also endless. It had a kind of self-circulation effect, so the drain on his energy was not ridiculously high. However, Dugu Ao was also extremely tired and did not want to move. Only Xiaochen appeared extremely relaxed, looking like nothing had happened as he sized up his surroundings. When Yang Kai saw this scene, he felt somewhat surprised. However, he did not think too much about it. Soon, the straw-caped old man rushed over without panting or blushing. After that, the silver shark race woman, the venom spider race woman, and the middle-aged couple arrived one after another. After the chaotic battle in the corridor, they managed to make it through without any mishaps. Yang Kai was not in a rush to scout ahead. He waited for everyone to rest and recover to their peak state before resuming their journey. At the end of the corridor was an empty remnant. After passing this remnant that did not yield anything, an ancient forest appeared before the group. An ancient forest appeared in front of everyone. The trees were blood red, and it was unknown how long they had been here. These are dragon blood trees. The ancient dragon race used their own blood to water these trees to grow. If no one visits this place, we will definitely be able to find some dragon blood flowers. Yang Kai could be considered experienced and knowledgeable, so he recognized these slightly sinister and terrifying ancient trees at a glance. Dragon blood flowers were natural treasures that grew in dragon graves. They were extremely precious and could strengthen a cultivator's bloodline and improve their aptitude. They were also one of the main ingredients for refining the dragon blood pill, worth cities. The dragon graves outside had been visited several times already. It was practically impossible to obtain dragon blood flowers. The large forest of dragon blood trees here gave everyone hope. They had heard of dragon blood flowers before, but this was their first time seeing dragon blood trees. We agreed that the natural treasures we find along the way will belong to whoever finds them first. Don't fight with me for them. The dark-skinned huge elephant race youth was not afraid of any danger here. He was the first to charge into the forest. How could the others be willing to fall behind? They quickly entered the forest, searching for dragon blood flowers. Xiaochen was also somewhat interested in these dragon blood flowers. They could improve one's aptitude and physical body and strengthen one's bloodline. To him, who possessed the blue dragon martial spirit, they should be even more effective. Maintaining caution, Xiaochen pushed off the ground and entered this dragon blood forest as well. Silently, Xiaochen arrived at a dragon blood tree. After making sure that there was no one around, he opened his heavenly eye. In this place, spiritual sense and perception were more or less limited. If one wanted to find dragon blood flowers, they could only rely on their eyes. With the heavenly eye, Xiaochen held a great advantage. When Xiaochen opened his heavenly eye, his vision immediately enveloped the entire forest. He could clearly see every tiny corner of the forest. These scenes turned into scenes flashing continuously in Xiaochen's mind. 1 flower, 2 flowers, 3 flowers. Soon, Xiaochen easily found more than 100 dragon blood flowers. Aside from a few that were too far away and difficult to obtain if someone got too close, Xiaochen was confident of obtaining most of them. After the heavenly eye closed, Xiaochen took a deep breath and unfurled the freedom wings. Then he executed thunder dragon steps and started searching this dragon blood forest. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xiaochen, who was doing his best, moved like a shadow in the forest. He weaved through the place and collected the dragon blood flowers one by one. Chapter 1192. In the forest, the dark-skinned youth saw a dragon blood flower, and immediately revealed an expression of joy. Then he raised his leg to pick it. However, a figure flew over like the wind and landed on the branch first. Then that figure picked the dragon blood flower. Xiaochen, what is the meaning of this? I discovered it first. Are you trying to break the rules that Boss Yang set? When the dark-skinned youth saw that it was Xiaochen, he became so angry that he trembled. He cursed loudly, showing that he would not let this matter rest. The angry shout attracted the attention of the surrounding people. As they looked at Xiaochen, who was on the tree branch, they all had complicated expressions in their eyes. Xiaochen was too fast, and his eyes were sharp. More than one person had seen Xiaochen moving around. Every time he stopped, he would reap a harvest. Hence, they had long since felt jealous. Now that the dark-skinned youth had found a reason to do so, the others had other thoughts. More and more people gathered. Even Yang Kai appeared. Xiaochen knew that the matter had blown up. His performance was too eye-catching. However, Xiaochen did not show any fear. He looked coldly at the dark-skinned youth below and said, "You are overthinking. What Senior Yang said is that it belongs to whoever obtains it first. It is not that whoever sees it first gets it." Regardless of who saw it first, Xiaochen saw it first. He had seen all the dragon blood flowers here with his heavenly eye. No matter what, Xiaochen was in the right. The dark-skinned youth was slightly stunned. He had not expected Xiaochen to retort like that. He was not good with words, so he did not know what to say. "I don't care. I saw this dragon blood flower, so you have to give it to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Xiaochen said coldly, "Feel free to be impolite. Let's see if I am afraid of you or not." Seeing that the atmosphere between the two was getting tense, Yang Kai quickly said, "Xiaochen, just let him have this dragon blood flower. You do not lack one. Even if all the people here were to work together, we would not have as many harvests as you. When faced with Yang Kai clearly siding with the dark-skinned youth, Xiaochen did not think of taking a step back. Just because I am capable and obtain more than others, I have to give it to someone else? That makes no sense at all. Furthermore, in this circle, if one showed weakness and took a step back, there would be no end to it. The human heart would never be satisfied. One cannot take even one step back. Xiaochen remained indifferent. He placed the dragon blood flower in his spatial ring, and held the lunar shadow saber in his left hand, silently expressing his stance. Just as Xiaochen and the two were on the verge of a fight, dragon flower, big saber, Xiaochen and dragon saber. Dragon blood Xiao dragon blood flower. The blood in Big Fatso's hand was only half an inch long, but the piece of meat in its mouth was half the size of a palm. It could be seen how sharp its mouth was, and how terrifying its antennae were. The situation was extremely strange. The sudden appearance of the crimson worms and Big Fatso's painful screams made everyone look over. Looking at the blood worms devouring the meat at an extremely fast speed, they were shocked. How dare you eat this Lord Fatty's meat? I'll crush you to death. Big Fatso was unable to restrain his anger. He clenched his fists, and it was impossible to tell how much power was contained in that clenched fist. Fatso's palms exploded. However, what was shocking was that when Fatso released his palm, the crimson worm was not dead yet. It flapped its wings and jumped onto Fatso's right cheek. With a few bites, it bit off a large piece of meat on Fatso's face. Everyone felt their scalps go numb when they saw that bloody and horrifying face. The speed of the crimson worm was too fast, and the crimson worm was very resistant to pressure. Hence, this tragic scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. Whoosh! Yang Kai's reaction was the fastest. He flashed over at lightning speed and caught the crimson worm, saving Fatso's life. Quick, let's go. This is an ancient mutated insect, the dragon bloodworm. It lives in groups. Let's go quickly. Let's go quickly. Horror flashed in the eyes of this half-step Emperor Wu. He did not explain much at all. He flicked his finger and killed the dragon bloodworm. Then, he took the lead and dashed into the forest. The others did not understand what happened. However, when they saw Fatso's miserable state, who would not feel fear, they could no longer care about the grudge between Xiaochen and the black-skinned youth. They chased after Yang Kai, rushing forward. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sound of countless dragon bloodworms flapping their wings resounded in the forest. Many dragon bloodworms came out of the trees, a ridiculously large number. Xiaochen and the others revealed extremely unsightly expressions. No one had expected such a situation. We are surrounded. Yang Kai retreated from the front. Even with his half-step Emperor Wu's strength, he did not dare to leave the group and charge forward alone. In the blink of an eye, the situation had turned into a life-and-death situation. No one could relax in this dragon grave. The group formed a circle and faced the flying crimson worms. No one dared to be arrogant and fight them alone. Everyone had seen the toughness of the dragon bloodworms for themselves. Only by focusing their attacks into a line could they kill these dragon bloodworms in one strike. However, this way, the area of attack was much smaller. Against the thousands of dragon bloodworms everywhere, it was not easy to kill them. The 10 people moved extremely fast. They did not dare to relax at all, afraid that the dragon bloodworms would get on them. They were afraid that the dragon bloodworms would come into contact with them. When they thought about what had happened to the fatty, and what would happen if the dragon bloodworms came into contact with them, no one dared to relax. Xiaochen's physical body was very strong. However, he was not arrogant enough to let the dragon bloodworms test his physical body. The energy of the lightning saber soul was infused into the saber, not leaking out at all. Xiaochen stood at the side, and continuously sent out a screen of electric saber light. If there were no one behind him, even with Xiaochen's strength, it would be extremely difficult for him to defend against these strange worms. Even now he was not at ease at all. He was extremely nervous. Every time he swung his saber, he used his full strength. He had not been in such a mental state for a very long time already, when he used his full power. Even Xiao Chun was in such a difficult situation. The other's situation was easy to imagine. The venom spider race woman shot out a spiderweb from her hand and caught many dragon bloodworms. However, before she could show joy on her face, the other dragon blood bugs flew over and chewed up the spiderweb in no time. Although it did not have any substantial effect, with this talent, it made things a little easier for her. Of the 10, the one who had the easiest time was probably the straw-caped old man. His straw cape was woven from some unknown grass. A formless smell spread out, reducing the number of dragon bloodworms on his side. However, this old man also had a cautious expression. He did not relax at all. The effect of that straw cape should have a time limit. There are fewer dragon bloodworms over there. Let's break out of the encirclement, the venom spider race man shouted as he looked in a direction with a strip of cloth covering half his face. Yang Kai glanced in that direction and said indifferently, "That is the direction to go back." The moment Yang Kai said that, several of the people who had revealed joy froze, no longer saying anything. Breaking out of the encirclement in the direction to go back would mean returning. No one would be willing to go back when faced with the temptation of an 8-star dragon grave. Don't hold back any trump cards. Old man you take the lead. We will charge out together. Otherwise, we will exhaust ourselves here. Yang Kai moved his hands. In the blink of an eye, strong winds shot out, and densely packed dragon bloodworm corpses appeared under his feet. The direction that Yang Kai was guarding had the most dragon bloodworms. Naturally, he wanted to switch places with the straw-caped old man because of the straw-caped old man's straw cape. The straw-caped old man hesitated for a while before saying, "All right, I'll take the lead. However, this old man will say one more thing. You had best not have any other thoughts. Otherwise, we will all die here. Don't play tricks with your lives. Charge." The straw-caped old man, who had been looking somewhat lethargic, now gave off a strong aura. His horrifying might was no weaker than Yang Kai's. This old man had lived for a long time. His cultivation was ridiculously strong. When he suddenly erupted, it startled everyone. The others also knew that it would not be an exaggeration to say that this was a matter of life and death. So they did not hold back any of their trump cards. The venomous spider woman let out a soft cry and revealed her demon form. She had transformed into a huge black spider with 8 legs, and each leg was as sharp as a peerless saber. With a single swing, a large number of dragon bloodworms were cut down. Yang Kai displayed his half-step Emperor Wu's strength. For the first time he drew his weapon. It was an ice spear. As he swung it, it gave off a knife-like cold chi. Xiaochen looked around. Aside from Dugu Ao, everyone else had revealed some of their trump cards. Even though Dugu Ao already had several wounds on his body, Xiaochen did not see him bring out the innate ability of his demon half-human bloodline. The 10-man team did their best to charge at the horrifying number of dragon bloodworms in front. Compared to the chaotic battle in the corridor earlier, the dragon bloodworms in this forest were even harder to deal with. Furthermore, this seemed to be only the second stage of the dragon grave. Everyone finally experienced the dangers of the 8-star dragon grave. With the 10 of them exposing some of their trump cards, they finally managed to charge through the forest full of dragon bloodworms. Everyone had more or less wounds on their bodies. Each bite from a dragon bloodworm tore off a large piece of flesh. Such a simple and crude method of injury was not only painful, but also impossible to recover from. However, Xiaochen felt somewhat depressed. As he looked at the wounds on his arm, which were much smaller than the others, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Xiaochen's physical body was very resistant to these dragon bloodworms. He could not bite through them at all, so he did not need to be so nervous earlier. If Xiaochen had materialized the blue dragon battle armor, he would have been able to walk out of this forest unscathed. However, that was one of Xiaochen's great trump cards. He would not use them if he could. Damn. This fat lord really does not need to lose weight anymore. Fatso, who was the most severely injured, cursed in pain as he looked at the uneven wounds on his body. The others did not have time to laugh at him. They all anxiously treated their injuries. No one had an easy time breaking out of this encirclement. 1 hour later, Yang Kai was the first to stand up. He said, "Let's continue." Chapter 1193. The exploration of the dragon grave had just begun. Naturally, they could not stop here, so they continued moving forward with twists and turns. After that, they experienced several dangers comparable to the dragon bloodworms. Finally, they arrived at the burial ground. This was a place where the remains of true dragons were buried. A place with precious burial items. Strange, why is there a line of words here? Yongkai, who was the first to enter the burial ground, had sharp eyes and saw a line of words on a stone wall. Let me see. The moment he said that, everyone's interest was piqued. The dark-skinned youth squeezed his way over and read. The Dragon's Gate's Qing Emperor was here. The Dragon's Gate's Qing Emperor was here. When the dark-skinned youth read this, he was completely stunned. The others were stunned as well. This was something that one would normally laugh off when they saw it. However, it was happening in this 8-star dragon grave. Furthermore, it was an 8-star dragon grave that no one had visited before. A person from 10,000 years ago actually played such a joke on people of later generations. This was simply unexpected. Let me see if it's real or fake. This is too funny. The great Fatso did not believe it. He pushed away the dark-skinned youth and looked carefully. There were indeed 8 average-sized words on the stone wall. The words were written in a flamboyant style, containing a strong aura. This allowed these simple words to remain clear and intact even after 10,000 years. Yongkai frowned and said, "It is hard to say if it's real or fake." However, the person who left these words was able to tear space and enter the dragon grave. He was definitely an expert. The words he left behind also contained a formless aura. He infused his mind, qi, and spirit into them. He was at least a sovereign martial emperor. Yongkai's cultivation was the highest. He was a half-step Emperor Wu. The conclusion that he came to was very convincing. The Qing Emperor was here 10,000 years ago. What good things could there be? We are going to end up empty-handed. This is really depressing. After overcoming so many difficulties and arriving at this burial ground, we still end up empty-handed. It is hard to say. Given the Qing Emperor's judgment, he might not be interested in these burial items. Perhaps he just passed by and did not touch anything. The group of people discussed among themselves. They were all shocked by the sudden appearance of these 8 words, and there were all sorts of discussions going on. The most shocked person in the crowd was naturally Xiao Chun, who had seen several portraits of the Qing Emperor. He was extremely familiar with the aura of the Qing Emperor. With just a glance, he was able to confirm that the words were left behind by the Qing Emperor. It couldn't be wrong. Standing in front of the stone wall, Xiao Chun was in a daze. He stretched out his hand and stroked the words. At the moment of contact, Xiao Chun's expression changed greatly, and he took 10 steps back. Xiao Chun looked at these words in horror. Unexpectedly, the Azure Emperor's shocking martial technique was left behind in these words. The instant he touched them, he felt an aura that could destroy the world. In the boundless void, there was nothing but a saber slashing towards him. Xiao Chun felt like he was there, and the saber would kill him in the next moment. He could not resist at all. As long as the saber charged over, there would be no way for him to survive. This was the scene that Xiao Chun saw earlier. Under the cover of these 8 words, there was a powerful killing move. What is the Qing Emperor trying to do? Xiao Chun's heart trembled. He knew that the Qing Emperor would not leave these words here for no reason. When Xiao Chun thought about all the strange things he saw when he first entered, this dragon grave was definitely extraordinary. Don't touch it randomly. This is the writing of a powerhouse. It contains an unparalleled aura. It contains the essence, energy, and spirit of a powerhouse, as well as killing intent and aura. Be careful not to lose your life. Yongkai warned as he looked at the retreating Xiao Chun. Yongkai's words made the others, who wanted to touch the words, stop thinking about it. Xiao Chun glanced at this person, and did not say anything about his discovery. He said sullenly, "Thank you, but I'm fine. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's quickly go and see if the burial items in the dragon grave are still there. That is the important thing." Fatso, who had a cloth bag tied to his face, said anxiously, changing the topic. Yongkai glanced at him and said, "Come with me. According to what we agreed on earlier, if there are any burial items, I will take 20%. You will split the rest evenly after that. I will be the one to take inventory of the treasures here. That's what we should do. Boss Yang, don't worry, the dark-skinned youth said. The others all expressed their agreement. This time Yang Kai nodded in satisfaction. Then, his figure flashed as he headed to the front of the burial ground. Inside the sturdy cave, in the depths of the burial ground, the group saw the towering remains of a true dragon. Beside the remains were boxes filled with them. Presumably, it contained the funerary objects. It was just that he didn't know if it had been opened by anyone. The true dragon remains were still there. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. With this true dragon remains, this trip was worth it. That's not right. Even though millions of years have passed, the true dragon remains of an 8-star dragon grave should still have lingering might. Although this true dragon remains is huge, its bones are glowing, and its spine is 200 meters long, it is not worthy of an 8-star dragon grave. The straw-caped old man's eyes lit up. After he glanced at the true dragon remains, he immediately voiced his doubts. The others suddenly understood and also noticed this mysterious phenomenon. This is probably not the main grave. The remains of the dragon grave's master are still somewhere else. Let's not care about that for now. The boxes here have not been opened yet. The burial items are still there. Let's split the things here first. Yang Kai's expression showed that he did not care too much about this problem. As he spoke, he opened a box. Damn. There are so many essence stones. When everyone saw the treasures in the box, they could not help exclaiming. There were rows of glistening essence stones piled up in the box. There were at least 2,000 of them. Yang Kai suppressed the excitement in his heart and continued opening the box. There was another box of essence stones. After opening 12 more boxes, 10 of them were filled with essence stones. The crowd piled them up into a small mountain. When they counted the number, there was a total of 25,000. Everyone had smiles on their faces. This trip was worth it. The other 2 boxes contained all sorts of dragon race secret treasures. Without exception, they were all Peak King grade secret treasures. There were more than 20 of them. No wonder there were so many adventurers in the Dragon Grave Sea. Even before they finished exploring it, they already had such a harvest. This was indeed a holy land for adventuring, worthy of people rushing over. Yang Kai said, Good, let's split it up now. According to our agreement, I can take 5,000 of these essence stones and choose 4 Peak King grade secret treasures first. Since the true dragon remains are still intact, we will not dismantle them first. When we are outside, we will sell them as a whole and split them evenly. Although the others were dissatisfied with such a split, they could still accept it. After all, Yang Kai was the strongest. Furthermore, he was the one who discovered the dragon grave, so there were plenty of burial items. Xiaochen did not mind. Of all the scattered gains along the way, he was the one who obtained the most, so he was already very satisfied. Dong, dong, dong. Just as Yang Kai prepared to split the treasures, a group of uninvited guests suddenly appeared at the fork in the burial ground. The person leading this group was the bald-headed Wu Ku, the half-step Emperor Wu with a snake tattoo on his head, who had stopped Dugu Ao back then. With Wu Ku in the lead, the other group also had about 10 people. They were also all consummation blue-robed Emperor teams. Their strength was no weaker than that of Xiaochen's team. When this group of people saw the mountainous pile of essence stones, their eyes immediately lit up with intense greed. When facing this group of people that suddenly appeared, the 10 people on Xiaochen's side instantly kept their guard up, coldly looking at the other side. Although this was rather surprising for them to run into other teams in this unvisited dragon grave for the first time, these people were all experienced. However, the people here were all experienced. They did not panic at all. They were very experienced. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and said, Wu Ku, unexpectedly, you found this dragon grave as well. The bald-headed Wu Ku smiled coldly and said, I was wondering who came in before me. So it is you. In that case, I am not surprised. Cut the crap. The burial items here are barely enough to split between the 2 teams. If you are willing, I can give you half, Yang Kai said, knowing Wu Ku's strength. He wanted to reconcile with him if possible. A murderous intent flashed in Wu Ku's right eye. which was covered by the snake head. He said, "Don't you know my style?" Attack. Unable to reconcile, Yang Kai decisively made his choice. He spoke at the same time as Wu Ke. The sudden battle was on the verge of breaking out. In the relatively vast burial ground, Yang Kai and Wu Ke were the first to fight. The others on both sides didn't hesitate either, each choosing their own opponent and fighting together. The sword-wielding middle-aged couple fought a pair of fiend race brothers who worked well with each other. When the half-masked first fatso saw a pretty girl on the other side, he could not help but smile. Then he excitedly leaped over, wanting to fight this person. "Your opponent is me." However, he was blocked by a middle-aged man who was waving a long spear. This made him extremely depressed and furious. The straw-caped old man sighed. Then, his figure flashed as he charged at an old man of similar age on the other side. The silver shark girl's eyes blazed with murderous intent as she faced the pretty girl that first fatso had taken a fancy to. This girl was unparalleled in beauty. However, the flickering light in her eyes was incredibly cold, making one tremble in fear. Dugu Ao and a demon mixed-blood cultivator fought. The other party was also a youth. The two seemed to know each other, and had some old grudges. When Xiaochen saw this sudden chaotic battle, he felt that it was strange. Isn't this too much of a coincidence for Yang Kai to lead us here? Coincidentally, Xiaochen arrived at this burial ground, and bumped into another team. There were so many opportunities earlier, but they did not meet at all. Xiaochen could not be blamed for thinking this way. He had always been cautious and liked to think ahead. It was better to be prepared. This was a team that was formed at the last minute. The members were not familiar with each other. Anything could happen. However, when this chaotic battle started, no one could avoid it. Before Xiaochen could think too much, his opponent appeared. This person was also a bladesman. This bladesman wore tight black clothes, and his sharp eyes gave off an ancient air. Chapter 1194. With one look, it was clear that this was a wandering bladesman who made the world his home. The black-clad man carried a saber and walked over to Xiaochen step by step. He smiled and said, "This is great. My opponent is a bladesman as well. Furthermore, a true bladesman. I can feel the soul of a bladesman in you." Xiaochen smiled and said, "Unfortunately, I cannot feel the soul of a bladesman in you. Aside from the sharp saber intent and the vicissitudes of life in your eyes, there is also an inexplicable perplexity in them. That is a perplexity that a bladesman should not have." The black-clad bladesman was somewhat stunned to be seen through with one glance. He smiled and said, "Your eyes are really sharp. If not for the fact that you do not have the cultivation of a consummation blue-robed emperor, I would not dare to challenge you. However, even if I cannot defeat you, it is worth it to die in the hands of a true bladesman. Make your move." Although this person's mental state had some flaws, Xiaochen did not dare to be careless. For Wu Ke to take a fancy to this black-clad bladesman, there had to be something extraordinary about him. Xiaochen raised his left hand slightly and raised the lunar shadow saber. Then he took 3 steps, each step leaving behind an afterimage. With every step he sent out countless electric dragon images. Xiaochen arrived before his opponent in the blink of an eye. Then he executed the Qing emperors drawing the saber. The instant he drew his saber, he brandished it in 81 different trajectories. The black-clad bladesman's eyes lit up. Clearly, this was his first time seeing such a profound drawing the saber. However, he did not panic. He drew the saber on his shoulder and held it with both hands, not in a rush to make a move. He was sensing Xiaochen's killing intent. No matter how many changes there would always be a true killing intent that would not change. Even if these 81 saber trajectories were all real, he only needed to find the one that contained Xiaochen's true killing intent and break it forcefully. Then he would be able to break this wave of attacks. Just as Xiaochen's saber light was about to strike him, the black-clad bladesman suddenly made a move. He held his saber with both hands and swung it vigorously. A waterfall appeared behind him, and as he slashed with his saber, the waterfall fell right on top of him. Dang! The 2 sabers clashed, and all sorts of saber trajectories were broken. Xiaochen's right hand, which held the saber, felt slightly numb. My flying flow strike is not bad, right? Although your eyes are sharp, in terms of combat experience and saber techniques, you are far inferior to me. You will lose this battle for sure. After knocking back Xiao Chun with one saber strike, the black-clad bladesman felt that he had figured out Xiao Chun's strength. His confidence soared, so he quickly charged over. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. The Qing Emperor's drawing technique was only his opening move. It was not even a killing move. His opponent had underestimated him. If he didn't explain himself, it would be better for the other party to underestimate him. That way, it would be easier for him to win. Saber shadows flew everywhere as the two of them fought back and forth. The entire boneyard was in chaos. Everyone fought their own battles. No one could be distracted. The strength of both sides was about the same. Both sides had their own strengths and weaknesses in the battle, and neither side had too much of an advantage. It was impossible to determine a victor quickly. 1 hour later, the victor of the first battle was decided. Although the great fatso on Xiao Chen's side did his best, he was not a match for the middle-aged spearman. The middle-aged spearman pierced Xiao Chen's chest with a spear. Xiao Chen's eyes opened wide, and he died with a grievance. This was how cruel the world of cultivators was. No matter how dissatisfied one was, being weaker often meant death. At this moment, in this intense battle, even if one wanted to retreat, it would be impossible. The middle-aged spearman smiled coldly and drew his spear. Then he looked around the battlefield and joined his companion's fight with the black-skinned huge elephant race youth. The situation tilted slightly in Wu Ke's favor. On Xiao Chen's side, the venom spider race woman defeated her opponent and killed him. Then she joined in to help her companion. Xiao Chen secretly observed the situation, not in a rush to end the battle before him. He already had a good grasp of the black-clad bladesman's strength. The other party's saber techniques were very strong, and his law energy was relatively vast. However, his saber soul was only 40% comprehended. As long as Xiao Chun brought out his 60% comprehended saber soul without holding back, he could suppress the other party in an instant and end this battle. However, Xiao Chun did not do so. The reason was that this sudden battle looked like a coincidence. However, no matter how he thought about it, it was not a coincidence. The cruel battle continued. The two sides were about the same in the first place. The two leading half-step Emperor Wus did not show any signs of ending their opponent quickly. This battle could only continue, not stopping until one side was dead. Cultivators died one after another amid the sounds of fighting. The middle-aged couple on Xiao Chen's side, and the black-skinned huge elephant race youth died one after another. The number of people dying on the other side was about the same. The stalemate still showed no signs of ending. Wuxia. Duguao and his opponent cried out as they struck each other at the same time, ending in a miserable mutual destruction. Seeing his opponent fall to the ground, Duguao smiled bitterly with his pale face. "It's good that you are dead. I've had enough of these days." After saying that, Duguao fell to the ground. "It's time to end this," the bald Wu Ke, who was fighting with Yang Kai, suddenly said. Yang Kai nodded. Then his figure flashed as he suddenly attacked, charging at the straw-caped old man who had just defeated his opponent. That straw-caped old man had just heaved a sigh of relief. Before he could react, Yang Kai chopped off his head with his sword. The half-step Emperor Wu brought out his full strength. Yang Kai's figure flashed rapidly, killing one person with each sword strike. The Silver Shark Race Bladesman and the Venom Spider Race Woman, who were severely injured and nearly drained of their law energy, caught completely off guard, they died at Yang Kai's hands before they could figure out what was going on. On the other side, Wu Ke moved quickly as well, killing off the remaining people on his side one by one. Something strange happened suddenly, without any warning. It was surprising but not surprising. Wuxia. Before the black-clad bladesman fighting with Xiao Chen could react, a bowl-sized bloody hole appeared in his chest. Needless to say, the one who attacked was naturally the bald Wu Ke, the half-step Emperor Wu with the black snake tattoo on his head. Subduing Dragon Profound Slash. Xiao Chen, who had been on guard all along, silently circulated his profound martial technique the instant the two half-step Emperor Wu attacked. A dragon image drifted about, and a resplendent azure saber light gathered on the saber. Holding his saber with both hands, Xiaochen brought out his 60% comprehended saber soul. It was like he had eyes on his back as he hacked down with great force. Dang! The sound of the saber and sword clashing resounded. Yang Kai, who had easily killed 3 people, was knocked back 3 steps by Xiaochen's saber strike, which Xiaochen had prepared long ago. A look of shock flashed in his eyes. Wu Ku, who was on the other side, was clearly surprised as well. He immediately exploded the black-clad bladesman with a punch. Then he glared at Xiaochen with his right eye. Suddenly, the snake tattoo that matched Wu Ku's eye appeared. The black tattoo turned into a real snake. Its body continuously grew larger as it charged at Xiaochen to bite him. This move was extremely sinister. It happened to take advantage of the moment when Xiaochen turned around and withdrew his saber. This created a dead angle, catching him off guard. However, Wu Ku was not the only one with a spirit pet. Xiaochen had one as well. A sharp bird cry rang out. Little yellow feather quickly came out of Xiaochen's ring and spread its wings. It instantly entered a berserk state. All the feathers on its body turned golden, giving off a resplendent and dazzling light. When little yellow feather clawed, it dug its claws deeply into the black snake's flesh, causing it to cry out in pain. Then it changed its target, turning its head to bite at little yellow feather. Pussy eye. Little yellow feather opened its mouth and spat out a strand of dense solar true flame into the black snake's body. Immediately, the black snake cried out in pain. It fell to the ground and rolled around continuously, looking as if it was in extreme pain. Xiaochen took advantage of the situation and spread out his arms, distancing himself from Yang Kai and the bald-headed Wu Ku. He hovered in the air, leaning against a wall as he looked at the two coldly. In just a few breaths of time, there were only 3 people left in this burial ground. Such an outcome was truly unexpected. The small mountain-like pile of essence stones flickered with light, giving off a boundless temptation. Then, Xiaochen looked at the bleeding corpses at the side. The saying "people die for wealth" was indeed true. Xiaochen said indifferently, "The 2 of you have good means. This Xiao admires you. Everyone says that the dragon grave is dangerous. In the end, it is not as dangerous as the human heart." At this moment, some of Xiaochen's doubts could already be resolved. Wu Ku and Yang Kai should have discovered this dragon grave at the same time. However, this 8-star dragon grave was too dangerous. If they did not find some scapegoats, they would not be able to enter the burial ground safely. Between the 2 of them, there should be a secret treasure that allowed them to communicate in private. Then it created a coincidence that the 2 groups met in the burial grounds. With so many treasures around, the 2 teams would definitely engage in a battle to the death. This gave Yang Kai and Wu Ku a chance to deal with the others easily. Naturally, the fewer people who shared the treasures, the better. Wu Ku removed the solar true flame from the black snake's stomach and stood beside Yang Kai. He looked at Xiaochen and said, "The ones who should be admiring you are the 2 of us. Facing so many treasures, you are still able to maintain a calm heart. This is not something that we can do." Yang Kai said with a smile, "Little friend, do you have anything to say before you die?" 2 half-step Emperor Wu against 1 great perfection blue-robed Emperor. No matter how one looked at it, victory was assured. Although Yang Kai was surprised by Xiaochen's strength and mental state, he did not think that Xiaochen could do anything against 2 half-step Emperor Wu. Then go ahead and try. Let's see who will benefit in the end. Yang Kai's and Wu Ku's expressions changed at the same time. After thinking for a while, they suddenly felt that Xiaochen's words seemed to imply something. "What do you mean?" Xiaochen shouted. "What do I mean? Are you still not coming out? Are you waiting for me to drag you out? There is still someone not dead." Yang Kai and Wu Ku were startled. Who could have hidden so deeply, even deceiving the 2 of them? Or was Xiaochen purposely trying to trick them? Youngsters these days do not know how to respect their elders. This old man is just seeking peace and quiet. There is no need to expose me. There was a drawn-out sigh. Suddenly, a head popped out of the headless corpse of the straw-caped old man on the ground. Then, they looked at the head that Yang Kai chopped off earlier. At some point in time, it had turned into a pile of dirt and merged into the ground. The straw-caped old man suddenly stood up, startling Yang Kai and Wu Ku. This old fellow was a true wily old fox. Chapter 1195. At the start, the two were the most worried about him. The straw-caped old man's combat prowess was not much weaker than theirs. Hence, Yang Kai's first goal was to kill this person. Unexpectedly, he still managed to fool them. If Yang Kai really fought with Xiaochun, the one who would benefit in the end would be this old man. Perhaps all the treasures would end up in this person's hands. Thinking of this, Yang Kai could not help feeling a chill down his spine. You've really hidden yourself well, Yang Kai said through clenched teeth. The straw-caped old man smiled and said, This old man has lived for more than 800 years. What kind of tricks have I not seen before? You are far from being able to scheme against me. Do you think that I did not notice the little tricks you used to communicate with this baldy on the way here? Then the straw-caped old man changed the topic and said indifferently, However, it is good now. With a large group of people gone, we will be able to split more things. Humans should not be too greedy. Young man, don't you think so? The meaning in the old man's words went without saying. If the two of them did not listen, Xiaochun would stand on Xiaochun's side and fight to the death with the two of them. No one would benefit from this. Yang Kai and Wuku exchanged glances and quickly discussed the pros and cons. Given the strength of Xiaochun and the straw-caped old man, they would definitely be able to kill one of them if they worked together. If they continued to be stubborn, the losses would outweigh the gains. The two quickly came to a decision. Yang Kai squeezed out a smile and said, Senior is right. We should not be too greedy. Let's start splitting now. Wait a moment. Xiaochun suddenly spoke. Then he walked over to Dugu Ao's corpse step by step. Dugu Ao was no longer breathing, and his corpse was ice cold. The others did not know what Xiaochun wanted to do. They only saw him cut his palm with his saber, letting drops of blood fall into Dugu Ao's mouth. As the blood slowly seeped into his body, Dugu Ao's pale complexion slowly turned rosy. In the end, his body completely recovered its vitality. Dugu Ao was a mixed-blood human and blood demon. Like the blood sword sovereign from 50,000 years ago, he was a mixed blood. Vampires had extremely long lifespans and wouldn't die so easily. Not too long after the other party's life force had been extinguished, fresh blood could be used to revive the other party. This was especially so for Dugu Ao. Xiaochun had observed him along the way. This person was rather special. Even at the critical moment of the battle, he did not use his blood demon's innate talent. For some reason, he would rather die than use the blood race's innate talent. Xiaochun did not have the time to think about the story behind this. He wanted to save this person because he did not want this person to die too pitifully. It was just a slight effort, so he wouldn't lose anything. Whoosh! Suddenly, Dugu Ao opened his eyes. His eyes were scarlet, containing an uncontrollable bloodthirsty murderous intent. Die. As Dugu Ao spoke coldly, he raised his hand and thrust it at Xiaochun's chest. What incredible speed! Dugu Ao thrust his palm forward like a sharp blade, so fast that there was no sound of wind at all. It was like he instinctively thrust his palm into Xiaochun's chest, trying to dig out his heart. Dugu Ao's attack seemed to be even faster than when he was not injured. Fortunately, Xiaochun's palm was closer to him. At the critical moment, Xiaochun took the initiative to strike Dugu Ao's chest, quickly pressing him down. The blade-like palm stopped about 1 centimeter away from Xiaochun's chest, unable to go any further. Little Yellow Feather, who was circling in the air, looked like a beam of light as it flew over at lightning speed. Little Yellow Feather spread its wings and let out a sharp cry as it glared at Dugu Ao. The flames in its mouth looked like they would spew out at any moment. Xiaochun knew that Dugu Ao attacked under the influence of his murderous intent. So he did not bother with it. He only restrained the other party and waited for Dugu Ao to slowly recover. This fellow! Seeing Xiaochun revive Dugu Ao, displeasure flashed in the eyes of Yang Kai, the bald Wuku, and the straw-caped old man. There was no other reason. With one more person, they would have to split the treasures. The red light in Dugu Ao's eyes slowly faded. That uncontrollable murderous chi slowly faded away. When Dugu Ao calmed down and saw Xiaochun's appearance, he was slightly stunned. After a while he said, I owe you a favor. A favor was the hardest to owe and the hardest to repay. In this world of cultivators, everyone had their own pride. A favor was more important than the sky. Even a cultivator with a bad reputation would abide by these words. Xiaochen smiled faintly and did not say anything more. It was just a small effort. Obtaining a favor was pretty good. Xiaochen released his hand, no longer restraining the other party. Dugu Ao stood up and looked at Yang Kai and Wu Ku, who stood side by side. Then he looked at the straw-caped old man and the corpses littering the burial ground. Then he roughly guessed what happened after his death. As the straw-caped old man looked at Xiaochen, he narrowed his eyes and smiled coldly. Unexpectedly, little brother still has a pure heart. However, this world is full of ingrates. In the future, if you get bitten by an ingrate, don't regret what you did today. Dugu Ao's expression froze, and a murderous chi flashed in his eyes. Xiaochen asked indifferently, "Old sir, are you talking about me? I should say that I am definitely talking about myself. If I were not an ingrate, how could I have lived for more than 800 years with the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor? If I were not an ingrate, how could I be afraid of death, not even daring to undergo my great tribulation of wind and fire? Ingrates are indeed despicable. However, having an excuse to be an ingrate, because there are ingrates in the world, is even more despicable." Xiaochen's words were like a knife stabbing into the straw-caped old man's heart, pricking the most sensitive part of his heart. Even with 800 years of self-restraint, the straw-caped old man could not endure it. His lips trembled as he roared, "You are seeking death." The straw-caped old man unleashed his aura, completely unleashing his horrifying cultivation. His heavy aura was like a huge mountain pressing towards Xiaochen. The old man quickly swung his fishing rod, following this aura. The barbed hook silently flew towards Xiaochen's throat. Xiaochen reacted quickly. He pointed at the air, and a cold light flickered on his fingertip. Then he pressed down heavily, shattering this faint but fatal fishing hook. A cold light flashed in the straw-caped old man's eyes. He pushed off the ground and sent a palm strike at Xiaochen. Boom, boom, boom. The old man's palm strike brought out his vast and heavy cultivation to its fullest. As he flew through the air, his aura was no weaker than that of the half-step Emperor Wu. Such a scene startled Yang Kai and Wu Ku. Fortunately, they did not attack Xiaochen earlier. Given the straw-caped old man's strength, it would not be a problem for him to launch a sneak attack and injure the two of them in an instant. "If you want to play for real, I'll play with you." Xiaochen stabbed the lunar shadow saber into the ground and raised his hand to execute the 1,000-year death. Petals flew everywhere, and a blood moon filled the air. Every petal contained Xiaochen's grief and worry. The force in his palm strike was endless, showing only the sorrow of separation and no joy. Bang! The two palms clashed. Relying on his advantage in martial techniques, Xiaochen fought the straw-caped old man, who had a much higher cultivation, to a draw. The straw-caped old man's heart trembled. The other party's grief silently seeped into his heart. Scenes of cruel memories from a long time flashed in his mind. The straw-caped old man, whose law energy was denser and surged, was the first to retreat in this clash of palm strikes. After he stood still, he no longer dared to make a move. This brat is not easy to deal with, either. The 1,000-year death completely exposed Xiaochen's strength. Now Yang Kai and Wu Ku no longer dared to underestimate Xiaochen. Never mind. So many people have died already. There is no need to make a big fuss. Let's split the treasures first. Yang Kai, who had single-handedly orchestrated this tragedy, acted as a peacemaker and spoke in a dignified manner. Xiaochen scattered his palm strike and grasped the lunar shadow saber once more. Then he looked coldly at the straw-caped old man and did not say anything more. Now that the straw-caped old man had a way out of this embarrassing situation, he did not continue to argue and calm down again. The treasures started to be split. There were more than 25,000 essence stones. The 5 of them split them equally, leaving Xiaochen with 5,000. For some reason, Dugu Ao did not say anything. He directly handed his share to Xiaochen, not taking a single essence stone for himself. This action upset Yang Kai and Wu Ku. However, they could not afford to fall out with each other now. If they made a move on Xiao Chun and Dugu Ao, not to mention what kind of price they would have to pay, In order to protect himself, the straw-caped old man would definitely not let the two of them succeed. No matter how he thought about it, there was no chance. As for the dragon race secret treasures, Dugu Ao gave his share to Xiao Chun. As for the complete true dragon remains, due to mutual distrust, no one agreed to let a single person keep it and split it after they got out. They could only dismantle it and distribute it to everyone. Given this, Xiao Chun obtained 10,000 essence stones, 3 peak quality dragon race king grade secret treasures, and a set of true dragon remains. Xiao Chun was the one with the greatest harvest on this trip. Furthermore, he had obtained 100 dragon blood flowers from the dragon blood tree earlier. It could be said to be a great harvest. Yang Kai and Wu Ke had tried their best, but their gains were still not as good as Xiao Chen's. They were furious, but there was nothing they could do. I believe you all can tell that although this is a burial ground, the master of the dragon grave is not buried here. There are even greater benefits ahead. Should we work together to explore the depths of this dragon grave? Yang Kai suggested, feeling somewhat dissatisfied. The straw-caped old man was very shrewd with age. He remained expressionless and did not say anything. Clearly, he was waiting for Xiao Chun to speak. If Xiao Chun did not agree, the straw-caped old man absolutely would not travel with these two half-step Emperor Wu. Xiao Chun thought to himself, this dragon grave is extraordinary. The powerful killing move that Qing Emperor left behind is the best proof. Reason told Xiao Chun to quit while he was ahead. That was the best decision. However, the curiosity in Xiao Chun's heart was somewhat hard to quench. What kind of situation caused the Qing Emperor to leave behind a killing move and leave quietly? If Xiao Chun left just like that, he would not be able to solve this mystery for a long time. Just thinking about it was unfortunate. Fortunately, Xiao Chun was not a wishy-washy person. He quickly made up his mind and said, there is no harm in going and taking a look. If one did not figure out some things, one would not be at peace. Xiao Chun knew what kind of person he was. If he did not go and take a look, he would not give up. Chapter 1196. Dugu Ao said indifferently, I have no objections. Yang Kai looked at the straw-caped old man. Since both Xiao Chun and Dugu Ao agreed to travel together, naturally, the straw-caped old man would not reject them. Good. I just knew that everyone would not be satisfied with this little harvest. How can an 8-star dragon grave only have this little harvest? Yang Kai smiled coldly to himself as he led the way out of the burial ground. The others quickly followed. After crossing the burial ground, the group of people went deeper and deeper into the vast and complicated cavern. The further in they went, the denser the demonic qi became. There was only an indistinct and extremely illusory demonic qi in front. However, it was already visible to the naked eye. Strands of demonic qi drifted in the air like snakes slithering about, looking extremely strange. The group felt that it was somewhat strange. Yang Kai, who suggested going deeper, already felt some regret in his heart. Aside from finding the true master of the dragon grave, he also wanted to see if he could take advantage of the chaos to kill Xiao Chun. However, the situation now exceeded Yang Kai's control. The atmosphere was simply too strange. How could there be such dense demonic qi in the dragon grave? Furthermore, this demonic qi was extremely pure. If there were deep abyss demon race cultivators or demon mixed bloods here, they would definitely like this place. To them, this was a holy land for cultivation. However, Xiao Chun discovered that Dugu Ao's expression was somewhat unsightly. From the very start, he had been very sensitive to demonic qi. The demonic qi that any demon mixed blood would like was something Dugu Ao did not seem willing to touch. When Xiao Chun thought about how this person had not been willing to use his blood demon innate talent, there had to be a story behind this. As for what the story was, Xiao Chun would not overthink it, much less ask about it. Right now, what Xiao Chun cared about the most was what was in the depths of this dragon grave. The path ahead was unexpectedly calm. Due to the age of the many restrictions and traps, the group easily broke them. The journey was very peaceful, without any disturbances at all. There were many forks in the road, but there was no need to worry about choosing one. They could take whichever path had the densest demonic qi. However, in the end, the group felt their hair stand on end. Even when they circulated their energies to block the dense demonic qi, they could not prevent it from seeping into their bodies. Dugueo was fine. However, when the demonic qi entered the bodies of others, it was like poison. They would have to spend some time to get rid of it. Go. Young Kai braced himself and walked forward. It was hard for him to back out now. After passing through a passageway where the demonic energy had turned into mist, the group's eyes suddenly lit up, and their field of vision suddenly widened. Looking at the scene before them, everyone's jaws dropped in disbelief. In the vast open space in front of him, there was a huge black skeleton of a true dragon lying on the ground. A vast dragon might spread out from the dragon bones. Even from a distance, everyone could feel the pressure. There were 8 thick and heavy chains on the back of the dragon skeleton, firmly locking the black dragon skeleton down from each side. The heavy chains, the giant remains of the black true dragon, and the dragon might that hadn't dissipated even after 1,000,000 years. The shock brought about by this scene was somewhat indescribable. Only those who were at the scene could feel it for themselves. There were also 8 flaming stone pillars surrounding the black dragon skeleton. Each pillar had a purple dragon skeleton tied to it. Compared to the giant black dragon skeleton, the 8 dragon skeletons tied to the flaming stone pillars were much smaller. Even so, these 8 purple dragon skeletons were much larger than the true dragon skeleton that Xiaochen obtained from the burial ground earlier. Furthermore, the dragon might from the purple dragon skeletons had not dissipated. It was clear which was stronger, be it the purple dragon skeletons on the flaming stone pillars, or the giant black skeleton bound by chains. They all gave off an extraordinary aura. What kind of flame is this? It has been burning for 1,000,000 years without extinguishing. Even with Yang Kai's experience as a half-step Emperor Wu, he felt that his knowledge was too shallow. He did not know what kind of flame this was. Xiao Chun frowned slightly and muttered, "This is a heavenly flame." This was indeed a heavenly flame. It had the same nature as the heavenly flame in Chu Chaoyun's eyes. However, the heavenly flame that Chu Chaoyun grasped did not have an origin flame. It was just a facade. However, the flame on these stone pillars was released by someone who possessed the heavenly flame's origin flame. Its might was on a completely different level. Thinking about the heavenly flame's origin flame sealed in the divine blood formation in the Blue Dragon Palace, Xiaochen suspected that the Qing Emperor had set the flames on these stone pillars. After thinking about it, this was quite possible. The Blue Dragon Palace happened to have the heavenly flame's origin flame, and the Qing Emperor happened to have been here. What's going on? Why did the master of the dragon grave lock himself here? Also, why does it feel like the dragon skeletons on these stone pillars are sealed like people? Without a doubt, that giant black dragon skeleton was the master of this dragon grave. However, why did it lock himself here? Look, doesn't the ornament at the top of the stone pillar look like a sword hilt? The sharp-eyed old man in the straw-caped raincoat suddenly said. There was a palm-sized stone pillar in the middle of every stone pillar that could be grasped with one hand. If one did not associate it with a sword hilt, it would be hard to notice. However, once one did, the more one looked at it, the more similar it seemed. A distant ancient divine weapon. The eyes of Yang Kai, who used a sword, immediately lit up. Although Wu Ku and the straw-caped old man did not use swords, they understood the value of a distant ancient divine weapon. A distant ancient divine weapon already rivaled an emperor-grade secret treasure. They were weapons that were hard to find in the world. Possessing a distant ancient divine weapon could raise Emperor Wu's strength by at least 20%. A distant ancient divine weapon would only be stronger than a divine weapon forged in the current era. Dugu Ao frowned and said, "It's best not to mess around. I feel that the stone pillars are the seals. These 8 dragon skeletons, as well as the huge dragon skeletons in the middle, are no longer of the dragon race. The demonic qi in their bodies is even purer than that of high-ranked demons." Given Dugu Ao's status as a mixed-blood human and demon, his words were very reliable. Xiaochen also felt that the distant ancient divine weapons on the stone pillars could not be touched. He advised, "Let's go back. This place is too strange." The Qing Emperor probably added the heavenly flame. It is possible that the original seal could no longer suppress these things, so he added the heavenly flame. The three could not decide what to do. Given their experience, they knew that what Xiao Chun and Dugu Ao said was true. However, the allure of a distant ancient divine weapon was too great. If they missed this opportunity, they would miss it forever. Yang Kai, who coveted this divine weapon the most, said, "Perhaps you are overthinking. These are just ordinary true dragon remains, just like the other dragon graves. They are just skeletons that have been dead for millions of years." Xiaochen smiled coldly and said, "You really know how to comfort yourself." Yang Kai immediately felt extremely uncomfortable after being rebuked by Xiaochen. His eyes filled with hostility as he said sullenly, "This old man does not need you to lecture me. Even if there is a great disaster, it is not my turn to worry about it." These words were extremely irresponsible. However, they were not wrong. Even if the sky collapsed, there would be someone taller to hold it up. As long as Yang Kai took the distant ancient divine weapons here and quickly escaped, even if the seal broke in the future, the ones to worry would be those primes and sovereign martial emperors. If something major happened, the ones to worry would be those primes and sovereign martial emperors. It had nothing to do with him, a half-step martial emperor. Whoosh! Yang Kai's figure flashed, and he landed on top of a stone pillar. There was no heavenly flame at the top, but there were some sparks floating around. Yang Kai carefully squatted down and stretched out his hand to grasp the sword hilt. Seeing Yang Kai's actions, Xiao Chen's and Dugu Ao's expressions changed, and they quickly took 10 steps back. A fervent look flashed in the eyes of the bald Wu Ku and the straw-caped old man, but they did not take even half a step back. The two of them probably had designs on these distant ancient divine weapons. If the distant ancient divine weapons were pulled out, nothing would happen. The two of them would use the shortest time possible to pull out all the other distant ancient divine weapons, not leaving a single one behind. Before everyone's eyes, Yang Kai took a deep breath, and determination flashed in his eyes. Then he started to slowly pull out the sword. As Yang Kai slowly pulled out the sword, bits and pieces fell off, giving off a bright light. A strong and simple might spread out. This was indeed a distant ancient divine weapon. As a swordsman, Yang Kai could not help revealing an expression of joy at this moment. He suppressed his excitement, and continued to carefully pull out the sword. A fervent look appeared in the eyes of the bald Wu Ku and the straw-caped old man. They looked around, wanting to see if there were any strange movements from the purple dragon bones tied to the stone pillars. There were no movements at all. Those dragon bones were like the bones of ordinary true dragons. They did not give off any fluctuations of life or any strange sounds. The wind was calm, everything was quiet. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief. A crafty look flashed in their eyes as they stepped forward. Before Yang Kai could pull out the sword, they each flew to a stone pillar. Compared to Yang Kai's caution, the two of them did not care. They pulled hard and pulled out all the swords. The two of them were only slightly slower than Yang Kai. They pulled out the distant ancient divine weapons from the stone pillars at nearly the same time. Their faces brimmed with joy. When the two of them felt the surging energy contained in the swords, they were overjoyed. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm. There were no fluctuations in his heart. He kept feeling that something was about to happen. Now that it was so calm, it was definitely not normal. The distant ancient divine weapons were important items for the seal. After losing them, there would be a major change to the seal. However, Xiaochen felt some doubt in his heart. These dragon bones had been dead for who knows how many years. Could they still be a threat? No matter what, it was better to be careful. Thinking of this, Xiaochen moved his feet and retreated further. Haha. Distant ancient divine weapon. It really is a distant ancient divine weapon. With this distant ancient divine weapon, why would I need to fear the great tribulation of wind and fire? After clearing the great tribulation of wind and fire, and advancing to martial emperor, the straw-caped old man's wish of hundreds of years was about to be fulfilled. He entered a berserk state, laughing maniacally. Yang Kai glanced at Xiao Chun and Dugu Ao, who had retreated far away. He smiled and said, "There are still 5 distant ancient divine weapons. Are the two of you sure you don't want them?" If you really don't want them, don't blame us for not leaving them for you. Tempted expressions flashed in Xiao Chen's and Du Guo's eyes. Who could resist the temptation of a distant ancient divine weapon? Chapter 1197. A large part of the reason they did not leave was the existence of the distant ancient divine weapons. Seeing that the three were safe and sound after obtaining the distant ancient divine weapons, Xiaochen could not help wanting to make a move. However, after struggling for a while, his rationality finally won over his desire. The time was not right. This place was too strange. The Qing Emperor would not place a heavenly flame on this stone pillar for no reason. Furthermore, he would not be so bored as to leave a powerful killing move on the wall. Cowardly and afraid of everything. Yet you still want to take the Emperor's road? What a joke. The straw-caped old man smiled coldly when he saw that the two did not move. Cassie. However, just at this moment, the chains binding the dragon bones on the three stone pillars where the divine weapons were drawn suddenly broke. Amid a crisp sound, the upright dragon bones fell to the ground with a whoosh. The dragon bones that fell to the ground slowly melted into a purple liquid that slowly flowed out of the heavenly flames range. When the black liquid completely flowed out of the heavenly flames range, it wriggled and took human form. Then it materialized three purple robes with the symbol of a demonic god embroidered on them. A bright light flashed in Xiaochen's eyes. These robes were clearly the Dark Church's uniform. He had seen them on Tung Xiao and the Dark Church's branch in the Sky Dome realm before. There was no mistaking it. Run. Without even thinking, Xiaochen turned around and left. Du Guo's movements were not much slower than Xiaochen's. He quickly followed behind, running back the way he came. Who are you? Yang Kai's three people on the stone pillars exclaimed in horror when they saw this sudden scene. They did not expect this. The three purple-clad men turned around expressionlessly and looked at the three people on the stone pillars. Then they sent out a formless mental energy, and the three immediately felt confused. The purple-clad men stretched out their hands at the same time, and the distant ancient divine weapons that Yang Kai's three held immediately struggled free. Then, they spun in the air and chopped off the three's heads at the same time. This scene happened very quickly, in less than half a breath of time. There was no time for the three half-step Emperor Wu experts to prepare. Yang Kai's three, who had been overjoyed at obtaining the distant ancient divine weapons, died to the divine weapons in their hands in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, they were able to witness the might of the ancient era's divine armament before they died. This proved that their foresight was not bad. It's a pity that it's not yours. It's not yours. Even if you hold it in your hands, it's not yours. Two escaped. One is a human-demon hybrid, and the other is a human blue-robed emperor. It's very weak, but we can kill it. Chase. The three of them spoke in an extremely simple manner. Their minds were calm, and they were extremely calm about breaking free from the seal. Come to think of it, he'd been sealed for over 1,000,000 years, so his mental state had probably become a dead sea, and it was very difficult for it to fluctuate due to external factors. So. Figures flashed. Three expressionless purple-clad men wielding divine weapons quickly gave chase in the direction that Xiaochen and Du Guo had fled. Their speed was unimaginably fast. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were teleporting. Although they could not tear space, they seemed to have some mysteries of the state of space in them. Compared to ordinary movement techniques, they were much more exquisite. After 15 minutes, the three saw Xiaochen and Du Guo's figures. Without saying anything, they each sent out a sword strike. Three terrifying sword chi sliced through the space like tofu, tearing open a neat black crack that continued to extend forward. Xiaochen checked his surroundings. He knew that he could not block them with his martial techniques. So he did a series of extreme movements with his feet in the air, brushing past the cracks created by the three sword chi. A black crack flew by Xiaochen's face, silently chopping off his fine black hair. This startled Xiaochen into breaking out in a cold sweat. For the sake of dodging the sword chi, Xiaochen and Du Guo's speed decreased significantly. The distance between them slowly shortened. The purple-clad men were like the Grim Reaper. As long as the two got close, only death awaited them. Sword chi flew everywhere, creating spatial cracks and turning the cavern into a mess. The rocks above their heads kept falling, creating quite a bit of obstruction for the two of them to escape. With their lives hanging by a thread, Xiaochen was extremely focused. His mind was clear. He did not give up at all. As long as they reached the stone wall where the Qing emperor left those words, they would have a chance of survival. Compared to Xiaochen, Duguao was in an even worse state. His body was already riddled with wounds from the sword qi. The Dragon's Gate's Qing emperor was here. Xiaochen's eyes lit up. He finally saw those 8 ancient and modern words. However, when he looked back, 18 crisscrossing sword qi appeared behind him, not giving him a chance to dodge at all. As for the 3 purple-clad men, they followed unhurriedly, one step at a time. They looked at the two like they were already dead. At the critical moment, Xiaochen unfurled the freedom wings and increased his speed by another 20%. He pushed off the ground and landed at the foot of the stone wall before the sword qi arrived. Just as Xiaochen was about to wipe away the 8 words and unleash the Qing emperor's powerful killing move, he glanced around and happened to see Duguao, who was about to be swallowed up by the sword qi. At this moment, if Xiaochen materialized the blue dragon battle armor and endured the damage of the 18 sword qi, he would have an 80% chance of saving Duguao. However, once he failed, Xiaochen would die a miserable death. Even if he managed to save Duguao, he would definitely end up severely injured. To save or not to save? To save or not to save? This was truly a difficult problem. There was not much time left for Xiaochen. If he delayed, he would lose the right to choose. Save. Decisiveness flashed in Xiaochen's eyes. Since there was an 80% chance of saving, why should he leave Duguao to die? Although Xiaochen was not a goody two-shoes, he could only watch as someone died before him. He clearly had a chance to save Duguao, but he did not do so. In the future, when Xiaochen recalled this, he would definitely feel guilty. He was not a cold-blooded person by nature, so there was no need for him to lie to himself. Putting away the freedom wings, Xiaochen materialized the blue dragon battle armor. The instant the battle armor covered his entire body, he flew over to Duguao's back. When Duguao, who had been waiting for death, saw Xiaochen arrive, intense shock flashed in his eyes. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen still came to save him at this moment. Just as the 18 sword qi were about to swallow up Duguao, Xiaochen picked him up and tossed him forward, blocking the 18 sword qi tearing space by himself. When the sword qi struck Xiaochen's back, this sword qi, which could tear space apart, paused for the first time when it encountered Xiaochen's third layer of the blue dragon battle armor. Xiaochen vomited a mouthful of blood as the 18 sword qi knocked him back. 18 horrifying wounds appeared on the battle armor on Duguao's back. Blood flowed out, and the wounds penetrated deep into his bones. Using the rebound of these 18 sword qi, Xiaochen accelerated and landed beside Duguao, his complexion pale. When the 3 purple-clad men saw this scene, their expressions changed at the same time. Clearly, they were greatly shocked at Xiaochen's successful escape. To think that the strong sword qi that Xiaochen brought out with the distant divine weapon did not chop this person into pieces. A peak sage body and the blue dragon battle armor. No wonder his defense is so strong. However, these two are severely injured. Even if they manage to escape this calamity, they will still die. The purple-clad man in the middle was stunned for a moment before recovering. The extremely weak Duguao smiled bitterly and said, "Unfortunately, there is no way for me to repay the favor I owe you. You should not have turned around to save me and ended up sacrificing yourself." Xiaochen smiled faintly and said, "Just live on properly. You still have to repay the favor you owe me. If I was not confident, I would not have made a move." Seeing the 3 purple-clad men appear in his vision, Xiaochen quickly made his move, erasing the words that the Qing emperor left on the stone wall. Boom. The instant all the words were erased, a figure suddenly appeared from the wall. That person was dressed in azure, looking like a celestial being as he walked out of the void. He was like a sovereign among men, exuding a tyrannical aura. Just his figure alone was enough to make people prostrate themselves in worship. Before the 3 purple-clad men could clearly see this figure, a bright saber light blinded them. Following that was a horrifying killing move. Under this saber light, the space in front shattered into countless pieces like a mirror. This was the true meaning of slicing through space. Everything within that space would be destroyed. The instant the three purple-clad men's corpses shattered, Xiaochen vaguely saw three tiny figures that looked like Yuanying trying to flee. In the end, space completely shattered. The instant the Yuanying appeared, the saber chi scattered it, thoroughly killing it. Dugu Ao and Xiaochen fell to the ground. As they looked at the shattered space in front, they felt a lingering fear and shock. Compared to that earlier saber strike, the sword chi that the purple-clad men sent out earlier was nothing. Destroying space with one saber strike was true strength, not relying on the sharpness of a distant ancient divine weapon to barely tear open space. If it were this saber strike, even if Xiaochen were 10 times more courageous, he would not dare to take it head-on. You knew long ago? Dugu Ao, who had just survived a calamity, asked as he looked at Xiaochen. Xiaochen nodded. The moment I touched the words, I knew. As Dugu Ao spoke, Xiaochen swallowed a medicinal pill for treating injuries. Then he circulated his energy and headed for the slowly merging space in front. What are you doing? Checking to see if they are all dead or not, Xiaochen answered without even turning his head. Dugu Ao gaped in shock. Xiaochen was too cautious. Even after all that, they were still alive. As Xiaochen walked over, he looked around. Aside from the three distant ancient divine weapons, there were no longer any remnants of the purple-clad men's bodies. Xiaochen did not feel at ease. He closed his eyes and sent out his spiritual sense, carefully scanning the place. After verifying that there were no traces of mental energy, he finally relaxed. Xiaochen could not help but be cautious. At the crucial moment, he saw the tiny figures coming out of the three men's bodies, startling him. They were simply too similar to an immortal cultivator's Yuanying. When Xiaochen thought about it, these things could be revived by a pile of dragon bones, even after 1,000,000 years. There was no harm in being cautious. How is it? Are they all dead? Dugu Ao asked as he walked over. They should be all dead. In that case, what do you intend to do with these distant ancient divine weapons? Plug them back in. Put them back in the way they were originally placed. Chapter 1198. After speaking, Xiaochen ignored Dugu Ao's shock and headed deeper into the dragon grave step by step. 2 hours later, he arrived at the place where the gigantic black dragon bones were locked. When Xiaochen saw the three headless corpses on the ground and the distant ancient divine weapons in his hands, he sighed. Desire was always a cultivator's greatest enemy. If not for Xiaochen overcoming desire in the ancient desolate tower, one of the headless corpses on the ground would be Xiaochen. As Xiaochen looked at Dugu Ao, who followed him over, he asked, "Speaking of which, how did you resist the temptation of the distant ancient divine weapons?" No matter how Xiaochen looked at it, Dugu Ao did not seem like someone who could resist the temptation of the distant ancient divine weapons. Dugu Ao smiled embarrassedly and said, "I could not get close to these stone pillars. These stone pillars have an extremely strong suppressive and sealing effect on cultivators who cultivate demonic qi. Although I do not cultivate demonic qi, I have half a blood demon bloodline in me. I could not avoid it." Xiaochen now understood. At the same time, he firmed his resolve to return the distant ancient divine weapons. The seal of this place definitely sealed incredible existences, which involved many secrets. The Dark Church, the Deep Abyss demonic race. These secrets could only be understood after Xiaochen became truly strong. After returning the three distant ancient divine weapons, Xiaochen thought for a while. Then he put some force into the sword hilt. This way, no one would be able to see the sword hilt from the outside. Even if someone accidentally discovered this place, without sufficient benefits, they would not touch it. Xiaochen leaped to the other stone pillars with dragon bones tied to them. Then he put some force into the sword hilt as well. Ah! Immediately, a miserable cry came from the stone pillar. Xiaochen smiled faintly. It looked like his idea worked. Xiaochen leaped over and pushed the sword hilt out of the other stone pillars into the ground. Then he jumped down and destroyed the entire cave with one palm strike. Rocks peeled off, completely burying this sealed land. After that, Xiaochen and Dugu Ao left this place. With every step, Xiao Chun threw a palm strike, destroying the entire burial ground. When he exited the entrance of the dragon tomb, he sent out a few more palm strikes, completely blocking the entrance. As the two looked at the calm surface of the vast dragon grave sea, they both felt fatigued. The adventure of the 8-star dragon grave finally came to an end. When Xiao Chun first entered, the group was very majestic. Now, only Xiao Chun and Dugu Ao came out alive. Even someone as strong as Wu Ku and Yang Kai, and someone as astute as the old man in the woven rush-caped raincoat, had fallen here in the end. During this adventure, not to mention the treasures, the viciousness of the human heart, the choices made in the face of desire, and the lowliness of one's own strength had given Xiao Chun a vivid lesson. This made Xiao Chun even more anxious to rush to the human demon sea and obtain the treasures that the Thunder King left behind. He wanted to advance to the consummation blue-robed emperor as soon as possible. Dugu Ao withdrew his gaze and performed a cupped fist salute to Xiao Chun. Before he left, he said, "Although I am arrogant, I will definitely repay the favor I owe you. There are many ingrates in the world, but I, Dugu Ao, will definitely not be one of them. We will meet again in the future." Xiao Chun, who watched Dugu Ao leave, did not know that Dugu Ao would really repay this favor a few years later. Furthermore, he did so in an extremely tragic manner. However, this was something that would happen many years later. The current Xiao Chun would definitely not think of it. As for the favor Dugu Ao mentioned, Xiao Chun merely smiled and brushed it off. Given his strength, he simply could not think of anything he would need Dugu Ao's help in the future. Xiao Chun had saved Dugu Ao twice only because of his principles. If it were someone else, he would have done the same. If he really died after saving Dugu Ao, Xiao Chun would have chosen to stand aside and not blindly act rashly. When Xiao Chun looked back at the calm surface of the sea, he thought of the people who went to the dragon grave sea with him, and shook his head slightly. After sighing, he summoned out the flood dragon war chariot, and headed for the human demon sea. Inside the war chariot, Xiao Chun sat cross-legged and started to seriously treat his injuries. If not for the final 18 strands of sword chi, it would not have been difficult for Xiao Chun to safely retreat from the 8-star dragon grave. However, it did not matter now. As long as Xiao Chun had enough time, given his physical body, no matter how severe his injuries were, he could recover in a short time. After half a day, Xiao Chun opened his eyes. The wounds on his back had already mostly healed. The defense of the third layer of the blue dragon battle armor far surpassed Xiao Chun's expectations. Furthermore, this was only at small perfection. Xiao Chun estimated that after he condensed the blue dragon battle armor, his defense should rival that of Mo Rant's body of steel. Furthermore, it did not have any weak points. All in all, Xiao Chun was much stronger. Among the deep abyss demon races, the iron demons were known as the race with the strongest defense. Due to the natural advantage of their body structure and some cultivation techniques, their defense far surpassed that of the other races. Furthermore, Xiao Chun's human body could rival that of the iron demon race's body of steel. If he appeared in the astral battlefield one day, he would definitely cause a huge commotion. Inside the war chariot, Xiao Chun went through his gains in the dragon grave again. There were 15,000 essence stones, 100 dragon blood flowers, 3 peak quality king grade secret treasures, and 1 true dragon remains. With such a large harvest, this trip to the 8-star dragon grave was worth it. However, the doubts of the 8-star dragon grave were hard to resolve. What kind of existence was the mysterious Dark Church? To think that such an organization actually existed a million years ago. This was truly shocking. The Sky Dome realm was no stranger to most of the deep abyss demon races. There were detailed records of the high-ranked demon races, and the 18 demon monarchs, which could be easily looked up. Only the Nether sect revealed very little information about them. Never mind, I won't be able to figure anything out no matter how hard I try. Right now, I am not strong enough. This is not the time to think about this. Right now, the most important thing is to rush to the human demon sea and obtain the treasures that the Thunder King left behind. Thinking of this, Xiao Chun thought back to the information Ao Jiao gave him about the human demon sea. In this oceanic world, Any sea region with a large number of cultivators would have rich resources and prosperous islands. In that case, the human demon sea would be an oddity. The spiritual energy here was thin, and resources were scarce. However, there were as many cultivators as there were hairs on an ox, no less than the number of cultivators in the heavenly starry ocean. The reason was none other than the demon mixed-bloods living here. There were demon mixed-bloods with purer bloodlines and more perfect evolutions. They looked no different from humans. There were also demon mixed-bloods with insufficient purity and imperfect evolutions. These demon mixed-bloods had long hair, scales, or horns. Most of these demon mixed-bloods cultivated demonic chi and had a violent personality. Although there were all sorts of factions and clans, they were not bound by the morals of humans. They did as they pleased and were much more cold-blooded and cruel. According to Ao Jiao, the treasures left behind by the Thunder King, Sang Mu, were on Scorching Flame Island in the north of the human demon sea. He had given them to Sang Mu's good friend, Su He, to guard. When the Thunder King was alive, he had saved this demon mixed-bloods martial emperor's life. Naturally, this demon mixed-bloods martial emperor agreed to the Thunder King's request before he died. This demon mixed-bloods martial emperor helped guard the treasures left behind by the Thunder King and waited for Ao Jiao to bring the new inheritor over. Back then, this demon mixed-bloods martial emperor was already a martial emperor. Now that 1,000 years had passed, this demon mixed-bloods martial emperor should be as strong as a sovereign martial emperor. Xiaochen was not very clear on the exact classification of Emperor Wu's strength. He was just making a random guess. He should not be too far off. Ao Jiao, how much do you know about this demon mixed-bloods martial emperor? It is hard to believe that a martial emperor could endure loneliness for 1,000 years. The human demon sea was already before them. However, Xiaochen felt somewhat nervous. 1,000 years was too long. He feared that he would not meet this demon mixed-bloods martial emperor. That would be problematic. Without this martial emperor's key, he would not be able to enter the Thunder King's treasures. However, Ao Jiao was very confident. She smiled and said, "Don't worry. I've met this demon mixed-bloods martial emperor before. Furthermore, you have to believe in the Thunder King's judgment. There will not be any problems." With Ao Jiao's assurance, Xiaochen felt more at ease. Half a day later, they formally entered the human demon sea. Xiaochen put away the flood dragon war chariot and landed on the surface of the sea in a low-profile manner. What dense demonic chi! Xiaochen frowned slightly. The instant he stepped onto the surface of the sea, he felt a large amount of demonic chi in the air. However, the spiritual energy here was pitifully thin. The human demon sea truly lived up to its name. Suddenly, Xiaochen thought about how Dugu Ao chose to cultivate spiritual energy under such circumstances, and even managed to cultivate to his current cultivation. He was truly a genius. After landing on a random island and resting for a night, Xiaochen headed for Scorching Flame Island in the northern demonic sea. In the northern demonic sea, Scorching Flame Island was an average-sized island. It was about the same size as Xiaochen's conferred land, Heavenly Star Island. Martial Emperor Su He was the only Emperor Wu on this island. The Su clan was also the strongest faction on this Scorching Flame Island. They controlled the largest city on the island, Scorching Flame City. This was news from 1,000 years ago. After 1,000 years, there should not have been much change. After all, with a martial emperor holding down the fort, it should be more than enough to dominate a medium-sized island. After arriving at Scorching Flame Island, Xiaochen headed straight for Scorching Flame City, moving as fast as lightning. "Who is it? How dare you barge into Scorching Flame City?" Just as Xiaochen approached Scorching Flame City, two old men with hostile expressions came out of the city and blocked Xiaochen's path in midair. These two old men were great perfection blue-robed emperor cultivators. The faction in the city must have sensed Xiaochen's strength. However, they did not know his background, so they sent two great perfection blue-robed emperor experts to investigate. This was normal. Any major faction would react like this when an unfamiliar expert suddenly appeared in their territory with lightning speed. If this was not the case, then this faction would not even have the most basic precautions, and it would not be far from destruction. Xiaochen did not find this strange. He smiled and said, "The two of you, please don't misunderstand. I do not have any malicious intent. I just want to ask, are the two of you surnamed Su? So, it is a friend of the Su clan. I was wondering why you were so arrogant. You came to Scorching Flame City without even saying a word before running amok." Xiaochen found this strange. Why does this tone sound off? Did something happen here? Is the Su clan no longer the overlord of Scorching Flame Island? You are not welcome here. Scram. The cultivators of the human demon sea were all hot-tempered. If they did not agree with each other, they would explode. The two old men immediately attacked, each sending out a killing move filled with overwhelming demonic chi at Xiaochen. You overestimate yourself. Chapter 1199. Xiaochen's face sank as he snorted coldly. Then he raised the 1,000-year flame in his left hand and the 1,000-year death in his right. Two bright moons, one scarlet like blood and one bright like fire, soared into the air behind Xiaochen, forming a miraculous scene of two moons competing with each other. This palm strike clashed with the two old men's attacks, causing the two old men to vomit blood and retreat. They fled with panicked expressions on their faces. Xiaochen did not give chase. He frowned slightly and said, "What's going on in this city? When I mentioned the Su clan's name, they immediately attacked me. Could something have happened in the past 1,000 years? Is he dead?" After sneaking into the city, Xiaochen asked around and obtained a completely unexpected answer. The human demon martial emperor, Su, he died 500 years ago, dying on the path to sovereign martial emperor. Such an answer truly caught Xiaochen by surprise. This was even harder to deal with than leaving Scorching Flame Island expected. The Su clan, the overlord of Scorching Flame Island back then, quickly declined after Su he died. Right now, the Su clan was on the brink of collapse on Scorching Flame Island. The factions that the Su clan had once suppressed had risen, and were suppressing the Su clan again and again. The Su clan had been chased out of Scorching Flame City long ago. Now they occupied a city on the northwestern edge of Scorching Flame Island. Although the Su clan was still one of the two major factions of Scorching Flame Island, it was in a gloomy state. Everyone knew that the Su clan would not last for long before the Wang clan chased them out of Scorching Flame Island. There was no such thing as a man living a good life for 1,000 days, and a flower blooming for 100 days. Right now, the largest faction on Scorching Flame Island was the Wang clan. The two old men who blocked Xiaochen from entering the city were the Wang clan's inner clan elders. The Wang clan's clan had possessed the strength of a half-step Emperor Wu. Aside from that, there were two consummation blue-robed Emperor experts. In this Scorching Flame Island without Emperor Wu, the Wang clan's reputation as the strongest was well-deserved. "Thank you." After giving the waiter who told him the news some compensation, Xiaochen picked up his teacup and entered deep thought. This was really a little troublesome. The guardian of the Thunder King's inheritance had passed away. It was unknown whether the key had been given to his descendants or buried with the key. "Ao Jiao, what do we do now?" Xiaochen asked, putting down the teacup. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, thought for a while before saying, "Let's go to the Su clan and take a look first. Without the key, I cannot open the Thunder King's inheritance. I hope everything goes well." After getting up and settling the bill, Xiaochen suddenly sensed a powerful aura flying rapidly in his direction. The two elders who were injured by him earlier were also following behind this powerful aura. One perfected blue-robed emperor and two advanced blue-robed emperors. Xiaochen smiled and said, "You really think highly of me." Now that Xiaochen faced a consummation blue-robed emperor, he did not fear him at all. Even someone as strong as the straw-caped old man would be confident of defeating him. However, there was no need to cause too much commotion at this moment. After circulating the foundation returning art to cover up his aura, Xiaochen silently left this place. Not long after Xiaochen left, 3 cultivators appeared at the entrance of this tea house. The person in the middle had purple hair and red eyes. He did not look old. The moment he appeared, the bustling tea house immediately fell silent. This startled the manager of the tea house. What could have startled the Wang clan's supreme elder, Wang Feng? Furthermore, There were 2 advanced perfection blue-robed emperors with him. Now, the Wang clan was like the local tyrant of this vast scorching flame island. No one dared to defy them. Normally, the Wang clan's people were arrogant and despotic. No one dared to offend them. The manager quickly ran over and smiled apologetically. "Senior Wang, what brings you here?" The purple-haired, middle-aged man did not say anything. Instead, the old man that Xiaochen injured at the side asked bluntly, "Have you seen a white-robed youth? He is not a local. His characteristics are very obvious, so you should be able to recognize him easily." "Yes, he just left not long ago." Seeing this person's ferocious expression, how could the manager dare not speak the truth? The expression of the purple-haired, middle-aged man, Wang Feng, changed slightly. He asked sullenly, "Are you sure he just left?" "He really just left not long ago. This little one does not dare to hide anything." Wang Feng muttered, "Strange, he just left not long ago. Why does it feel like he vanished completely from my perception? There is no such peak great perfection blue-robed emperor here. Could it be that this fellow learned some secret technique to hide his aura and managed to hide?" Wang Feng nodded and entered deep thought. After a while he said, "That should be it. This person's strength is not simple. Don't offend him for no reason. However, he seems to have some connection to the Su clan. Furthermore, he injured us without saying a word," one of the old men said carefully. Wang Feng smiled coldly and said, "I'll make some time to make a trip there personally. If he really has some connection to the Su clan, I will make sure that he cannot leave Scorching Flame Island. If not, just treat it as a small loss. In the future, just be more careful." The 2 of you, don't think that you are unrivaled in the sea region around Scorching Flame Island just because you can cover the sky with one hand. After saying that, the purple-haired, red-eyed Wang Feng could not be bothered with these 2, so his figure flashed and he left. This caused the 2 old men that Xiaochen injured to exchange glances, feeling upset. However, old Wang personally made a move. If this brat really has some connection to the Su clan, he will definitely die a miserable death. That is natural. Old Wang is a peak great perfection blue-robed emperor. If the half-step Emperor Wu does not appear, who can match him? Scorching Flame Island was about the same size as Xiaochen's conferred land, Heavenly Star Island. It was as large as a province in the Tianwu domain. Even if an ordinary person rode on horseback for 3 months, they would not be able to cross it. As for the blue-robed emperor, especially a demonic genius like Xiaochen, there was no need for him to go through so much trouble. When night fell, Xiaochen used only 7 or 8 minutes to easily reach a city at the northwestern edge of Scorching Flame Island. It was a city that was built on a desolate mountain, and it was the current location of the Su clan. Compared to the bustling Scorch City, it seemed to be desolate and cold. It was no wonder that it seemed to be lethargic in the words of others. It looked like this Su clan was indeed forced into a miserable state. Soon, they would be forced out of Scorching Flame Island. With his previous experience, Xiaochen continuously circulated his foundation returning art this time. He traveled silently, not startling anyone as he arrived at the city lord's residence. At this moment, the large hall of the city lord's residence was brightly lit. The Su clan's clan head and the Su clan elders were all gathered together, seemingly discussing something. Without startling anyone, Xiaochen quietly landed on the roof. When he saw the brightly lit hall and the grave expressions of the Su clan elders, he could not help but listen out of curiosity. "Big bro, the Wang family is being too aggressive right now. Several of our resource islands have been occupied by the Wang family. We can't go on like this. The Wang clan's people are too tyrannical. They are simply pushing us to our deaths. Not only did they chase us out of Scorching Flame City, they even want to occupy our resource islands. They are trying to break our roots. Big brother, make a decision. The ancestral teachings can be changed. Right now, the Wang clan is at a critical juncture. I believe that old ancestor Su He will forgive us." Everyone in the room stared at the Su clan's clan head, who sat in the middle, with a fiery gaze, hoping that he would make a decision. Xiaochen checked with his spiritual sense, and discovered that this person held a simple and unadorned purple key in his hand. He had a conflicted expression, clearly in great pain. Seeing this scene, Xiaochen immediately understood what was going on. After Su He died, he did indeed hand the key to his descendants. At the same time, he left a will to wait for the Thunder King's inheritor to appear. However, now that the Su clan was at a critical juncture, these elders wanted to use the treasures left behind by the Thunder King. They wanted to rely on the treasures left behind by the Thunder King to survive this calamity and regain their position as the overlord of Scorching Flame Island. How shameless! How can you steal the things left behind by our benefactor? Ao Jiao cursed from the immortal spirit ring. Her face flushed red with anger. Xiaochen said calmly, "Don't get agitated. Let's see what decision that Su clan's clan head will make." Xiaochen was not a bloodthirsty person. However, if the Su clan's clan head made the wrong decision, he would not mind starting a massacre. Inside the hall, when the Su clan's clan head saw his fervent brothers, a complicated expression appeared in his eyes. He knew that these people missed the Su clan's position as the overlord of Scorching Flame Island. They could not endure their current sullenness. He could understand how these brothers felt. However, this was something passed down by their ancestors. Before the old ancestor died, he had warned them repeatedly. As the clan head, he did not dare to make a rash decision. Don't mention this matter. The things in there are not the old ancestors but the old ancestors' benefactors. If I really take them, how am I going to face the old ancestor after I die? After thinking for a while, the Su clan's clan head made a decision that disappointed all his brothers. Congratulations. You've made the right choice. Whoosh. Xiaochen nimbly somersaulted and suddenly appeared in the Su clan's hall. Who is it? Xiaochen's silent appearance frightened the group of people in the hall. The peak experts of the Su clan were all gathered here, but they did not sense his presence at all. When the Su clan's clan head sized up Xiaochen, they discovered that he was only a peak great perfection blue-robed emperor. However, the pressure from his aura was even more horrifying than that of a half-step Emperor Wu. The Su clan's clan head calmly waved his hand and stopped the flustered elders. Then he looked at Xiaochen and asked, "Might I ask who you are and why you are eavesdropping on us?" Xiaochen looked at the purple key on the table and said calmly, "I do not have any malicious intentions. The person you are waiting for is me." Sensing Xiaochen's gaze, the Su clan's clan head grabbed the key in his hand and said with a grave expression, "I do not know what you are talking about. I am not waiting for anyone. I think you are mistaken." Not bad. Even at this moment he can still remain cautious. Xiaochen praised the clan head in his heart. If his words caused the clan head's expression to change drastically and reveal everything, then Xiaochen had underestimated the clan head's composure. Haha, do you need me to explain? I am the inheritor of the Thunder King. The person Emperor Su he wants you to wait for is me. The key in your hand is mine. The moment Xiaochen spoke, the expressions of the group of people in the hall who wanted to open the Thunder King's inheritance changed. They did not expect to meet the person in question. Furthermore, the other party heard that the descendants of the protectors wanted to take the inheritance for themselves. Their expressions turned complicated. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.